Hey guys, this is Infinity No What Ifs. I hope you are doing well. Please support to subscribe this channel to watching new interesting stories and to get all videos in real time. Please subscribe. So in this video, we will see what if Naruto unleashed new power trained by Tsunade. Here is short summary. During his preparing for the finals of the Chunin exams, the instructor his sensei assigned him was taken out by some weird man pepping in the Konoha hot springs. In a twist of fate, he was not trained by this man. Instead, a beautiful woman sends the man into the distance with a single strike. Seeing this, Naruto requests that this woman train him. But before we start, if you want more stuff like this, then be sure to subscribe and like this video. And if possible, share this video with your friends. Now let's start the story. Tsunade Senju was relaxing in the hot springs in Konoha. She never thought that she would be back in this place after she lost all that she has, but Shizune wanted to visit. How could she say no to the person that has been with her since her fiancé and Shizune's uncle, Dan, died during the Second Shinobi World War? She stayed for varying periods of time, but never fully resided in Konoha, to visit her cousin Kushina. However, after she died 13 years ago, she had no one left in her family aside from Shizune, who could be considered her daughter at this point, not just her apprentice. Nevertheless, she was back in Konoha and she wanted to keep this quiet. The last thing she needed was her sensei, Sarutobi Hiruzen the Sandaime Hokage, to find out she was here and nag her to convince her to stay. She brought a saucer of sake to her lips to continue to enjoy the warm water of the springs. Her musings were brought to an end by some loud shouting that was going on beyond the wall that separated the springs from the outside world. What truly caught her attention, however, was the word, pervert, that was being shouted out. Though she didn't want to reveal herself, she could not stand perverts, especially if they tried to peek on her like her former teammate Jiraiya. She got out of the water and wrapped herself in a towel before making her way outside to punish the peeping Tom. Naruto Uzumaki was having a bad day. First, his sensei ditched him for Sasuke Tem, saying that he needed his help more. Sure, Gaara was strong, shockingly so. I mean, the punishment that he took from Bushy Brows, who battered him around the preliminary arena, was outrageous, but he needed help too. Neji had shown that he is more than willing to kill fellow Konoha shinobi. At least Gaara has the excuse that he was fighting a foreign shinobi. Neji went mad just because he didn't like the other person's views, and knowing his luck, Neji would do just that. That's why he needed help. But what does he get? He gets passed on to some closet pervert that he beat with a single jutsu that wasn't even that cool. He was taken to the hot spring so he could learn how to walk on water, but ever since the second stage of the Chunin exams and that long-tongued Kusa Kunoichi had hit him where his seal was, controlling his chakra became really difficult. Maybe he should have said something. Well, that was for later. Now his new sensei was just knocked out by some long, white-haired pervert that summoned a frog that used its tongue to knock him out. Hey, what do you think you are doing, you pervert? Who the heck are you? He shouted. The man responded by doing a weird kabuki dance. Who, me? I am known as the man that the ladies squeal upon seeing, the one that all men idolize and wish to be. I am known as one of the greatest shinobi to ever live. I am known as the Gamma Sennin Jiraiya, he proclaimed from the top of his toad. Gamma Sennin? Questioned a confused Naruto. Exactly, he stated as he dismissed the large orange toad. Hey, pervy sage, what are you going to do about this? Exclamation mark quote, shouted and exacerbated Naruto while pointing at the man who was supposed to teach him for the 1 month before the finals of the Chunin exams. What were you doing anyway? The man began digging around in his pale green kimono top, saying, I was getting inspiration. I'm a writer for a brilliant novel. As he said this, he pulled out a familiar orange book that Naruto had always seen Kakashi-sensei reading. Oh, that's, stated Naruto. Oh ho, you know this book, do you? I've gotten quite famous here, he, thought the man with a wide grin. That's not a novel. That's some perverted piece of crap, you pervert, shouted a now angry Naruto. The man rushed forward to get into Naruto's face. Fool. I'm not just a pervert. I'm a super pervert, the man bellowed to the heavens. More importantly, what are you going to? Before any more could be said, the man he was arguing with was struck square in the jaw and was launched clear into the horizon that was accompanied by a battle cry. The wind kicked up from the strike, forcing Naruto to cover his face with his arms, which nearly pushed Naruto to his butt. He turned to see who struck the pervy sage to see a woman, fair-skinned woman of average height with hazel eyes and a curvaceous figure with the largest bust he had ever seen that had some kind of green crystal gem necklace on a black cord, that had a pearl on each side of the gem, nestled between them, with smooth legs and long blonde hair that fell almost to her mid-back while wearing nothing more than a bath towel to cover herself. He could also see that her fingernails and toenails had bright red nail polish on them. All in all, she was probably the most beautiful woman he had ever laid eyes on, even more so than Sakura-chan and Haku. Though that last one always gave him chills when he thought back on the raven-haired boy. Once Tsunade had sent the person, who may have been Jiraiya, to the horizon, she turned to the person standing next to her. She was shocked, though she didn't show it, to see a boy with many features that reminded her of Minato in looks with Kushina's face. No way, she thought. A second later the boy seemed like he was going to speak. If he was speaking with Jiraiya, the boy would undoubtedly be a pervert himself, so she prepared to knock the boy out until he spoke. Whoa, that was so cool. You defeated the man who defeated my sensei in a single hit. You even sent him flying. That's so cool, he nearly shouted, but his enthusiasm seemed to remind her of someone she didn't want to remember. Hey, cool it Gaki, quit bouncing around. Naruto turned to her with a glare. Hey, my name is not Gaki. It's Naruto Uzumaki and I'm going to be Hokage. And since you beat the guy that beat my sensei, you should be the one that trains me for the Chunin exams. The words the boy spoke struck another chord in Tsunade's heart. Over this boy she saw an image of her little brother who this boy, Naruto, bore a striking resemblance to. Tsunade seized up for a moment before regaining her composure. No, was all she said as she turned and began making her way back to the hot spring. Naruto looked shocked before he spoke again. What? But you have too. That pervert knocked out the guy my sensei passed me off to and you beat the pervert, so clearly you have to train me. Plus, you are super strong Oba-san. Once more some of the words the boy spoke began striking chords within her heart. She stopped walking and asked the boy without looking back to meet his face, Hey Gaki, who are your parents? At this question, Naruto's mood fell. He looked down at the ground before he answered. I don't know. I'm an orphan, he stated quietly. And if a switch had flipped he began talking rather loudly again, but that's okay because I'm still going to be Hokage so that people will look up to me and see me. He proclaimed. Pieces in her mind were falling into place. If this boy was as old as she thought he was, then maybe, just maybe. Wait here boy, I'll be right back. Without waiting for a reply, she walked back into the hot spring to change and collect Shizune and Taunton. Naruto on the other hand was dumbstruck. Was this lady going to train him? Is this the first person who is willing to train him simply because he asked? Hope welled within him. He made sure to plant himself in the spot he was at and wait for the beautiful and strong Oba-san to come back. Tsunade meanwhile was plagued by thoughts. Maybe he wouldn't have died if he was trained better. Maybe he would have lived if he had a better sensei, thought Tsunade as she re-entered the spring. She located Shizune giving Taunton a bath in one of the corners of the pool. When she reached her location, she addressed her apprentice daughter. Shizune, when you are done, we are going to meet someone who is waiting outside, and no, it is not Sarutobi-sensei. As Tsunade walked away, Shizune was stunned. But my lady, if you don't mind me asking, who are we going to meet? Asked her apprentice. That, said Tsunade as she turned to freshen up, is what I aim to find out. Naruto waited patiently for the beautiful Oba-san to come out of the hot spring. He was getting antsy despite the little amount of time that had passed since she had left. Not being used to many people showing him kindness, he was always weary until they showed they weren't going to treat him like the villagers. To his surprise, the woman came back. She came out in a gray, sleeveless kimono blouse with a broad, dark bluish-gray obi that held it closed, bluish-gray capri pants, open-toed, strapped black sandals with a pronounced heel and a grass-green obi that had the kanji for gamble on the back inside a red circle. Following her was another fair-skinned woman who was slightly shorter than the blonde, same-style sandal though without the pronounced heel. She had straight, shoulder-length black hair with onyx eyes, dressed in a bluish-black kimono with white collar that was held closed by a violet obi. She also appeared to have a mesh armor shirt underneath along with a red collar. In her arms was a small pig that had red vest and a pearl necklace. "Glad to see you still waiting," Tsunade told him. "Now before I even consider training you, tell me two things. Do you know who I am? And do you know what it means to be Hokage?" Naruto pondered his answers to the questions. "Well, you are some kind of super ninja who is super beautiful and super strong, who can beat anyone with a single hit," he said excitedly. The black-haired woman seemed like she was giggling behind her hand at his response. The second one though, that one stumped him. He thought on his answer long and hard. He then thought to what Hokage Gigi had told him long ago. "As Hokage, it is my duty to protect this village. Not just the buildings but the people too. I see all the people in the village as my family and I want to protect my family." He also remembered the words Haku had told him when they met in the forest. "Do you have someone precious to you? I believe to be truly strong a person must have someone precious to them." Having his answer, he answers the pretty Oba-san. "I want to be noticed, I want to be seen as me." Tsunade frowned at his answer and was about to tell him to leave until he continued, "But I also want to protect my precious people. To do this I need to become stronger so that I can keep them safe." Tsunade and Shizune were shocked by this answer. Tsunade saw an overlay of her brother Naoki, her grandfather Hashirama, and her fiancé Dan, while Shizune saw Dan over the boy. Tsunade did her best to repress her feelings of seeing her loved ones in this boy. Feelings she had that were not felt since Dan. She thinks back on her thoughts that she had about her little brother back in the spring. "If he is family, maybe this one I can keep alive," she thought to herself. Letting out a sigh, "Fine Gaki, I'll train you," she told him, surprising both the boy and Shizune. "My name is Tsunade Senju and this is my apprentice Shizune Kato and I am the world's greatest medic nin," she told him as she sported a confident smirk. Naruto's eyes went wide. He was surprised to hear that this Oba-san with a super punch was a medic like the ones at the hospital. "However, I will not train you here. If you are training for the finals then you don't want to do it where your competition can see you, right?" Naruto thought about it before nodding along with what she was saying. Yep, he definitely made the right choice in asking this pretty Oba-san to train him. "We'll head out of the walls and do your training there. While we walk, I want you to tell me what you were working on and any injury or event that has happened since you started the exams," she told him as she turned to make her way out of the village, Shizune, Tonton and Naruto catching up with her. The three were making their way from the hot spring to training grounds to get out of the village unnoticed. "Hey, Naruto, right, didn't I tell you to tell me about any injuries that you have taken since the exam started, right?" Naruto rubbed the back of his head sheepishly, forgetting that she asked him to do that. He was more into the route they were taking. It seemed to be a route that traversed the outskirts of the village, avoiding all the major areas where people like to congregate. It was almost like she didn't want to be seen, though if it was because of him Naruto could understand, though it did sting. Not wanting to bring down the mood, Naruto responded in his usual energetic tone. "Well, the first exam was really hard, ya know. It was this test that had all these super hard questions that I didn't know how to answer," he said a little downcast. Though he didn't see it, the two women raised an eyebrow at his explanation. Did he not know he could have cheated, or did he not have a method that he could have used? The two ladies thought as they walked. "So, I just didn't answer any question until the last one, which I passed because that scared face proctor couldn't scare me," proclaimed Naruto. Again, both women were surprised by his statement. He passed an information gathering test by not backing down. They both thought, "Well, he's certainly an interesting one. Seems like a way that Kushina may pass if she wasn't prepared for hers," thought Tsunade, giving her more suspicions as to who his parents are. Then after he explained that we could have cheated, there his tone took a drop as he was told that he needed to cheat to pass. But it jumped up again as he continued his tale. This crazy lady that had a coat over some fishnet clothing came bursting through the window saying she was the second proctor. "Though I have to admit her entrance was pretty cool," he said with a nod and his arms crossed. What happened next was more of him running his mouth without thinking. Though it's not as cool as pretty Tsunade Oba-san punching someone into the sky. This caused Tsunade to smile softly while Shizune looked on curiously at her master's response. Anyway, she brought us to this place she called the Forest of Death, he said with a shiver. Well, I kinda told her that the place wasn't scary. But then she threw a kunai that cut my cheek and licked the blood, he said with another shiver. Tsunade got a flat look on her face. That is not a good habit. She could end up ingesting something poisonous or toxic if she does that to the wrong person just to intimidate a genin of all people, Tsunade thought with a groan. Then after she licked my cheek, some other lady with this super long tongue, like it was so long she actually used it to hand the crazy proctor her kunai with it, came up behind us with this creepy smile, he said as a chill went down his spine. This bit of news surprised both Tsunade and Shizune. It couldn't have been. The two thought but waited for Naruto to finish his tale before they questioned him about this long-tongued individual. Well, after that, we got our scroll since we were supposed to get a heaven and earth scroll to pass then make it to this tower in the center of the forest. When we got a little way into the forest, we had to make a stop, he said with a slight blush as he looked away. Well, I got captured, but it wouldn't have been an issue if he would have fought me fair and square, he said with a huff. Well, after I beat the guy and chased him off, Sasuke Tem said we should get a password. Here his anger grew a bit. Of course, the Tem picked something that he knew I wouldn't remember. After that we were hit with a large wind blast that sent me flying through the forest. When I landed, this giant snake ate me, he said with a shudder and a pout. For the other two, however, this made their suspicions grow. If it was Orochimaru, he attacked this boy and his team. I can't believe he survived if it was him. The two thought in unison. After the thing ate me, I made it cough me up by creating so many cage bunshin until it exploded, he bragged as stood proudly before catching up to the two. After that, I rushed off to find my team. Well, he can certainly be creative, Tsunade thought. Well, when I found my team, that creepy long-tongued lady was wrapped around the tree rushing at Sasuke. With that statement the two laid his suspicions, and Tsunade's growing fear for someone who may be family, were confirmed. He is here, and yet we have yet to be confronted by an Anbu or Sarutobi-sensei. Has this village become lax? Questioned Tsunade. Well, to save Sasuke I heroically threw several kunai in front of that freaky long-tongued lady which stopped her. Then for some reason Sasuke wanted to give up our scroll to that freak. I mean, come on. Just because some is stronger than you doesn't mean you give up. I mean, we didn't give up when Kakashi-sensei got captured by Zabuza. We came up with a plan and managed to win, so why would this be any different? Tsunade could feel a headache coming from this boy's stupidity, but she figured that if her teammate was disguised, he may not have realized who he was fighting. And if she heard right, he also survived fighting Zabuza Momochi, the demon of Kiri. This boy's luck is insane. Maybe I should bring him with me when I go to a casino next time, she thought as a glint appeared in her eye that didn't go unnoticed by Shizune. Well, before he could give up our scroll, I caught it and punched him in the face. Then the freak summoned another large snake that slammed its head down on the branch we were standing on before throwing me up into another one. Well, it tried to eat me. That was when I got angry and punched the snake. I actually bruised its nose. With one punch. Kind of like you, Oba-san, Naruto proclaimed. So, he's the boy Minato sealed the Kyuubi into. Well, I know he was selfless and Kushina was due around that time. There is one true way to be sure, but I won't know until his chakra control improves. Also, that sounds like what happened when Kushina was younger. When she got angry, she drew on the Kyuubi's chakra, even if it was by accident. Tsunade thought. Well, after fighting with the giant snake, it attacked a frozen Sasuke, like a coward. To save him I shielded him with my back while stabbing it with two kunai in the nose where I called him a scaredy cat, because he refused to fight. After that, the freaky tongue lady used her long tongue to wrap me up. She then used this jutsu, a 5-something seal, and slammed it into my stomach, then I passed out. If he still has the seal on, it's amazing that he can even move. Though knowing how stubborn Kushina was, she would force herself to continue on no matter her injuries, she thought with a fond smile. Well, after I woke up, we made our way to the tower, which we barely made it to. After that we fought in the preliminaries, as I guess there were too many of us for the finals. At this, Tsunade interrupted him. Listen, kid, I know that you'll probably want to tell me all about your friends, but I'm training you, not them. So, tell me if you have any injuries still and if that seal is still on you. Nodding his head, Naruto continued his tale. Well, even though I fought Kiba and he got some lucky hits in, I heal up pretty fast, so I don't think anything is wrong. Tsunade raised an eyebrow. Did you not get checked out at the hospital? Naruto looked down at the question, which surprised the two women. I don't like hospitals too much, I haven't had the best time there, he told them cryptically. If what happened I suspect did, then the staff has certainly fallen in quality since I ran the place, Tsunade thought angrily. As for the seal, well, I still haven't told anyone. Actually, you're the first people I've told. Not even my sensei knows, he told them, half embarrassed, half sad. When Sasuke was injured, Kakashi-sensei immediately checked up on the Tem. Even took him to the hospital after his fight. Even after his own fight he didn't ask if he was okay. Sure, he healed fast, but it would have been nice to show he cared. So, he passed the preliminaries despite having a seal that basically made molding chakra impossible. Well, I'll give him this, he certainly is tough and never gives up. Every time he seems to get put in a bad situation he doesn't quit. Hopefully this won't backfire for him, Tsunade thought. Shizune had her own thoughts on the matter. He reminds me of how Tsunade-sama described the Shodai when he was alive. Maybe he can help heal the wounds in Tsunade-sama's heart. We are here, Tsunade told the group. Naruto looked around and saw that they were next to a riverbed in the forest that was bordered by a heavily rocky bank on each side. There appeared to be some large boulders and a wide variety of plants near the trees. He turned his attention back to Tsunade. So, before we get to your training, there are going to be a few things we have to do. First, you are going to tell me what it is your last sensei was having you work on. Second, I am going to give you a full medical checkup to make sure you have no lasting injuries you may not know about, and third, I am going to remove that seal you have on you. Before you ask how, my grandmother was a seal mistress and taught me quite a bit. Though I am not known for it, I am quite good at seals, like a teammate of mine, she explained. Naruto, while excited, was also curious. Why do I need a checkup? I always heal quick, he questioned. Tsunade drew in a deep breath. Just because you heal doesn't mean you healed correctly. For instance, if you broke your arm it could heal. But if not set properly it could be misaligned and thus make it hurt to throw a punch or even just use your arm in general. She lectured. Naruto looked confused. Misaligned, he questioned. Tsunade's eyes narrowed before answering. It means to not line up properly, she said as she gave a demonstration by using her pointer fingers not touching as she pushed them together. Thanks to the demonstration, Naruto understood what she was getting at. Well, how do you know that I have that problem? That's why I'm giving you the checkup, to make sure that hasn't happened since you don't seem to like hospitals, Tsunade explained. Finally grasping what she was talking about, he went on to explain what he was working on. Well, I'm set to face this guy, Neji Hyuga, who is a real jerk because he tried to kill his cousin, Naruto explained with a huff while crossing his arms. So, the closet pervert said he was going to teach me how to walk on water, which is what I was doing until I saw that white-haired pervert peeking in on the hot spring, then after that I met you. He explained. Tsunade pinched the bridge of her nose. Did he tell you anything else he was going to train you in? Naruto just shook his head. Tsunade let out a grunt of frustration. He is set to face a Hyuga and all he was going to get was chakra control training. I don't care if he is the Kyuubi's Jinchuriki, that is just, she thought angrily. Well, good chakra control is a good foundation. In fact, a lot of my skills are based on perfect chakra control, however not having anything else lined up suggests that he either didn't have much faith in you or that he thought it would take you a month to learn how, she said angrily. Naruto looked down at this. Yet another person that saw him as nothing more than the damn kitsune. So, under me you will not only learn chakra control but, if your parents are who I suspect they are, then there is a secret technique I will teach you. Naruto was shocked. You know who my parents are? He asked in a desperate tone. Tsunade held a hand up to stop him. I said I suspect, but I can't confirm it until your chakra control improves, she told him. But why do I need good chakra control? I can already use a jutsu from the scroll of sealing. He protested. Just because you can use a jutsu doesn't mean you can use it effectively. If you can't mold your chakra properly, then you run the risk of either overloading or underpowering a jutsu, leading it to fail. If you use too much chakra, you could die, as not having any chakra in your body is the equivalent of having no blood, she explained. And in your case, it's worse. Naruto looked at her confused, for both the new word he hadn't heard before and how running out of chakra is worse for him. Seeing his confusion, she explained. If you run out of chakra, the Kyuubi could flood your system to keep you alive, but that could lead you going on a rampage, as its chakra is dark and malicious. Naruto was surprised that she knew about the Kyuubi and the effect his chakra can have on him. He began to quake in fear that maybe she was going to hurt him or turn him away. Seeing his expression, Tsunade spoke. Yes, I knew you held the Kyuubi, and no, I don't care. I knew someone just like you, and the kitsune did not define her. She perceived and became one of the strongest kunoichi I knew. Heck, sometimes she could even give the Yondaime a run for his money if he wasn't using his Hiraishin. She didn't even need the fuzzball's power to do so, she explained with a fond look in her eyes. Naruto was shocked. If she knew someone like him could be strong enough to rival the Yondaime, then his dream of becoming Hokage was achievable then. Really? Was she really that strong? Smiling down at him, she nodded. Yes, she was. She was also headstrong, stubborn, and had the will to never give up. The more she talked about this person, the more Naruto suspected he would get along really well with this woman. With this, his excitement exploding out of him. Hey. So Oba-san, what are you going to teach me? Well, the first thing I am going to teach you is chakra control, since that is the basis of what I use. I will also teach you how to fight without taking a hit. Since you are fighting a Hyuga, taking any kind of hit could prove fatal. And the last thing I'll teach you is physical conditioning, and not just working on your speed and strength. We will be working on flexibility and proper diet. Naruto looked at her confused. What does diet mean? It means what you eat. What does what I eat have to do with anything? Tsunade let out a sigh. Proper nutrition is what improves muscle growth, makes you stronger, improves your brain condition, helps you think better and understand more, and helps you grow taller. Having a proper diet can improve a shinobi's ability to survive on a mission, she explained. Well, I don't need anything but ramen, Naruto said while nodding his head. Listen, Gaki, you may love ramen, but if it is all you eat, an opponent you face who has been eating a proper diet and is just as skilled as you will beat you, since his body has been properly fueled. Imagine training as hard as possible only to realize that your opponent wins because he was eating better than you. That would certainly make you memorable Hokage, but not a strong one. Tsunade used the same explanation she used on her brother to get him to eat properly, and seeing the look on Naruto's face, it seemed to still work. Under great protest, Naruto relented. Well, let's get started, she told him. Take off your shirt and jacket and I'll start your examination. Following his new sensei's instructions, he removed his top and stood before her. Her hands glowed green unlike the usual blue. Hey Oba-san, what's that? Quirking an eyebrow, she answered him. This is medical chakra, something that can be achieved with excellent chakra control. Didn't they teach you this in the academy? Naruto looked a little nervous. I may have missed that lesson, he chuckled. Well then, I guess we're going to be filling what else you missed over this training. Everything I will teach you will require you to be quite knowledgeable, she told him. Naruto began to panic. I'm not great with studying, he laughed off. Tsunade and Shizune's eyes narrowed. Well, that's not an issue. Using your kage bunshins, we can make sure you will build good habits. Naruto's face scrunched up in confusion. Tsunade let out a sigh before she explained. The kage bunshin no jutsu was invented by my granduncle, the Nadaime. The jutsu allows the user to receive all the memories that their bunshin gain over the course of their life, though they can cause a feedback overload that could harm the user's mind if they use too many or dispelled at once or kill the person due to how much chakra they use, she explained. Naruto's eyes widened at this revelation. Why didn't anyone tell me about that? Exclamation mark quote. Tsunade looked at him with a quirked eyebrow as she began her diagnosis. That warning should have been in the scroll when you were granted access. Naruto turned his gaze away from her. In response she narrowed her in suspicion at him. How did you learn the move? Naruto was hesitant to answer. Shizune tried a different approach. Setting down Taunton, Shizune placed a comforting hand on Naruto's shoulder. Naruto-kun, we can't help you if you don't talk to us. You can trust us, we won't judge you. After a moment of silence, Naruto told the two how he failed the Bunshin no Jutsu portion of the academy and that his former sensei had tricked him into stealing the scroll of sealing and learn a move from the scroll that he would pass a special test. When pressed why no one helped him learn either chakra control to help him learn the Bunshin no Jutsu properly, he reluctantly told them, I was always kicked out of class, sometimes for asking a question, other times for trying to participate. Anytime I would ask for help the teachers would say I was being a nuisha. A nuisance, Shizune finished. Yeah, Naruto confirmed sadly. By this point he had his head down while tears brimmed in his eyes. Shizune hugged him, which he returned, while Tsunade went over what she learned. This child is greatly malnourished. If I had to bet, the chakra of the Kyuubi must be healing that. If he is an Uzumaki, then his genealogy and the Kyuubi's chakra are healing his malnutrition, thought a seething Tsunade, remembering that this was not what her grandfather wanted for children in this village. Taking a deep breath, Tsunade spoke to change the subject, though now she has a better understanding of why he doesn't understand certain words and concepts that should have been covered in the academy. Well, now you know more about the jutsu you learned from the scroll. We will be using this for everything but physical conditioning. We'll get started once I get that seal off of you. Now raise your hands up and prepare to feel some pain. Naruto was released from Shizune's hug and wiped his eyes. Thank you. For what, Naruto-kun? Asked Shizune. For listening and helping. This time Tsunade hugged him. While the one he got from Shizune was nice, this one felt warm and comforting. Alright, let's get to it, Tsunade said abruptly as she broke the hug, a light dusting of pink on her cheeks that she hid behind her fist. With a nod of his head, Naruto raised his arms above his head as the fingertips on Tsunade's hand light up with blue flames. 5-pronged seal release, she cried out as she struck the seal on his stomach that made Naruto hunch over from the strike. As Naruto recovered from the hit, Tsunade turned to her apprentice. Shizune, use a henge and go into town, get some basic books on calligraphy, reading, and first-year medical books. While I may not make this boy a full apprentice, yet, he has quite a bit he needs to catch up on if he is going to be trained by us. Shizune's eyes widened in shock. Tsunade-sama, are you sure you want me to help train the boy? She asked hesitantly. Yes, while I will be overseeing the majority of his training, you have a different approach that he may listen to depending on the subject or if I get tired. Despite my age and who my grandparents are, I am biologically younger than my chronological age. The large amount of chakra his system has undoubtedly given the boy a lot of energy. That means we are more likely to get tired before he does, she told her apprentice. Hearing this reasoning, Shizune understood her master's way of thinking. Tsunade, same, if it's not rude of me, but why did you agree to train the boy? Tsunade looked at her apprentice before watching Naruto straighten up. Naruto, try the water walking exercise again, not that your chakra is flowing better. She shouted at him. Naruto gave a yell of acknowledgement. As he stood on the side of the river, he channeled his chakra to his feet before stepping out onto the nearby river. Call it a feeling, Shizune, she answered her apprentice as they watched Naruto perform the exercise effortlessly, and if what they were told was true, he was almost able to do the exercise with his chakra flow disrupted. Now with it flowing properly he was able to do it flawlessly after using a hand sign to channel his chakra, which was stunning. While it can be improved to be done on instinct, doing what he did with less than an hour's practice shows just how much potential the boy has. Shizune returned to the riverbed to quiet the sight. While she had gone back to the village and got the texts that Tsunade had asked her to get, as well as lunch, she saw that Naruto had created well over 100 cage bunchins working on both the tree walking exercise as well as water walking. There was even a few working on separating different color sand in his palms. Shizune had to wonder where they got gray sand. Leaving that for later, she looked out to the two who were standing on the river while Naruto was going through taijutsu katas for the Tsunade's personal style, which relies on heavy strikes and evasion. As she often said, a medic that is taken out is useless to their team, so it is important that a medic never take a hit lest they risk the life of their squad. Breaking herself from her master's lessons, Shizune called out to the two, "Tsunade-sama. Naruto-kun, I'm back and I brought lunch," she yelled as she held up a convenience store bag. Naruto was about to run over until his collar was grabbed by Tsunade, who used the hold to lift him from the water as she appeared to lecture him. He gave a pout before he seemed to relent and she set him back down on the water, though she didn't let him go until he had applied his chakra to the bottom of his feet. He called out to his clones, "Hey guys. Stop doing what you are doing." Eventually the clones all got to dry land. Naruto dismissed some of his clones. Based on how he gripped his head and the following lecture he received, he may have released too many that time. Sigh. Naruto, I told you not to release too many. Since they are focused on different tasks, when they dispel, your mind has to categorize everything that is coming in. If the information is not the same, then you may either take longer to process it or have it overshadowed by whatever else is being processed, making the training useless, she lectured. Naruto, being annoyed by the throbbing in his head, didn't realize what he said as he said it. "Well, if you're so smart, why don't you train like this, you?" he snapped. He gulped when he realized what he did before robotically turning to face Tsunade. He. Sorry, I didn't mean to snap," he said nervously. Using her monstrous strength, she threw Naruto by his jacket to shore, aiming to clip a few of his clones in the process. Her aim was on point, nailing 8 of his clones with the orange-clad blonde. With a smirk she walked back to shore, as Naruto pushed himself up. She stood over him, a manic grin on her face as she asked, "Have you learned your lesson, Gaki?" Naruto quickly nodded his head. He placed his hands in the ram seal and began doing his best to follow Tsunade's instructions when dispelling his clones. Though he went slower than originally instructed after a few attempts, resulting in too many being dispelled, giving him another headache. When he was done, he joined Tsunade, Shizune and Taunton, who had been laying under the trees, for lunch. "Hey Shizune-chan, what did you get? Did you get ramen?" he asked excitedly. Despite letting out a low giggle, "No Naruto-kun, I got us bentos that have rice, chicken, and an assortment of vegetables. And for Taunton, I got you vegetable bento." "Oink," replied the excited pig. Shizune got a nod of approval from her master while Naruto seemed dejected. "Ah, no ramen," he complained. Tsunade gave Naruto a look that told him to be quiet. "Naruto, what did we talk about when it comes to diet?" she asked as her tone got darker. Naruto gave a thinking face as he tried to recall what she told him. Suddenly a light bulb went off over his head. "That eating right makes strong shinobi," he repeated enthusiastically. With a smile she gave a nod. "Correct, and eating your vegetables along with protein is one example of eating right." Naruto was quick to retort, "But ramen is healthy. It has meat in it." Tsunade let out a sigh. "While it does, it also is high in salt and lacks the best vegetables for a growing shinobi," she lectured. Naruto looked like he was about to argue with her again, but she cut him off. "Naruto, just because I am trying to get you to eat better does not mean you need to give up ramen. If you couldn't eat a meal that was unhealthy for you from time to time, a food like ramen would not exist. Like everything, too much of one thing makes it a bad thing." Naruto looked angry as he glared at her. His time with the beautiful lady in front of him had taught him that she is just as stubborn as he is. He refused to relent his stance on ramen, but if what she said about eating right was true, maybe he could give it a try. After all, what kind of shinobi wants to be remembered as, "They didn't eat right so they lost"? Not the best look for the soon-to-be greatest Hokage. With that he left out a long sigh before he asked for the bento. Tsunade and Shizune smiled to him as Shizune handed him a bento and a pair of chopsticks. All four took a seat in the shade of the trees before letting out a prayer of thanks and digging in. While eating, Naruto had to admit that the vegetables he was eating definitely tasted better than the ones he had before. Though he was curious about something, Nay Tsunade-chan, why are you having me focus so much on chakra control? Like I get that you said it was like the big thing you used in all your techniques, but like why focus on it so much? Tsunade gave him a look before beginning her explanation. Chakra is like a pool of water, or in your case an ocean, she said as she rubbed his head. Naruto looked dejected, however he actually leaned into the affection she was showing him. You cannot control the actions of a body of water, however you can draw from it and pick out the amount you need. Think of a jutsu as a person drinking water from their own pool, too much water and they could drown or cough it up, too little and they are left thirsty. This is the point of chakra control, to use only the amount you need so a jutsu doesn't get overloaded or not activate, she explained. Naruto seemed to understand her analogy better than when Iruka-sensei tried to explain it. Last time he tried to get him to learn, he just went on and on about how good control makes things stronger and that if he didn't learn it then he would struggle to learn a jutsu. Well, he learned the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu without good control. But wait, I learned the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu and you keep saying I'm wasting chakra. How can that be true if I keep making Bunshin? Tsunade gave him a small smile. Good question. You see, the Kage Bunshin uses a lot of chakra to make, so it is difficult to overload them. However, have you noticed that it's easier to make massive amounts of them rather than a few? Naruto thought about it for a moment before nodding to her question. See, this is due to your control. The higher the control, the easier it is to use a small amount of chakra to use these large jutsu like your Kage Bunshin. Imagine how many more you could make if you didn't need to try as hard to make so few of them. Naruto got a contemplative look, then his eyes lit up at the thought. There is something else to keep in mind. Some Kekkei Genkai that are chakra-based could also activate or be usable to their owner as they are able to easily mold their chakra, she explained. Naruto got excited. So are you saying I could have a cool ability like Sasuke Tem? Quote. Tsunade shrugged. It's possible, but this only applies to chakra-based Kekkei Genkai as their ability to mold their chakra is tied directly to their ability to wield said abilities. Then Naruto got skeptical as something struck him. But wait, if I have so much chakra, shouldn't it not matter if my control is good? Tsunade shook her head. The biju in your gut only gives you large reserves and access to another source of chakra. The ability to control it is still all you. No matter how much chakra you have, if you can't control it, your instincts won't manifest the ability as it could result in its user's death. And in your case, running out has different side effects. Like I told you, if you run out it will flood your system and make you lose control. However, if you can control your own, you can eventually control its if it tries to force some into you, or if you need to draw on its power should such an emergency come up, like when you fought Haku and that long-tongued lady in the forest. Naruto looked both sad and eager, sad that he may have had a cool ability sooner if his control was better, but eager to see if he did. If all he needed to do was boost his control to make it happen, then he was more than eager to put in the work. Plus, if he could use the furball's chakra because of it, then all the better reason to get to it. Before he could get started, however, Tsunade put her finished bento and chopsticks to the side and got to her feet. If you need more of an incentive, then if you can get your control to my standards, I'll teach you how to do this. Eager to see what she would do, Naruto watched her walk on top of the river to stand in front of a massive boulder he estimated to be 5 times her size. He watched with rapt attention as she struck the boulder, shattering it to dust. Naruto was awestruck. You see, me punching this hard is a combination of chakra control and my muscle strength. While we may not be able to get yours this high by the finals, I can definitely show you how to do it with chakra if you get your control high enough. Naruto was practically jumping out of his skin. He could see it now. He punched Neji Tem and Sasuke Tem so hard he'd send them flying out of the arena. With the biggest smile he could have, he shouted, "Then what are we waiting for? Let's get back to it." She gave a smile to match his enthusiasm. Well, he is certainly eager, I'll give him that. Though I suspect that all that chakra has given him a form of ADHD based on the way he acts. He must have so much that it fuels him like a squirrel on caffeine, she thought to herself. Okay, however, this time we are going to do things a bit differently. Like I told you before, I am a medic nin, so you will be learning this as well. However, before we start there, Shizune is going to be helping you understand everything you had missed out on in the academy and before. To do this, I want you to be as honest with either her or myself as possible when we teach you. No question is too dumb or stupid, and asking for help is one of the tenets of a Konoha shinobi, which is seen in our teamwork. If you can't ask your fellow Konoha shinobi for help, how can you rely on them to have your back when it comes time for a mission? Naruto looked hesitant to agree, but after a bit of time, Shizune's kind words of encouragement, Tsunade's encouraging smile and pinning glare, he relented. Oh okay, I got it, pretty Oba-san. Tsunade smiled and gave an approving nod. Okay, with that settled, make 150 kage bunchins and I'll give you instructions from there. With a nod, Naruto made his bunchins. When the Sea of Orange came to existence, they all looked to Tsunade for instructions. Okay, 50 of you are going to go with Shizune for studying. Remember, don't diversify into too many subjects at one time. Too much information at one time could mean that he doesn't learn at all. Also to all the Naruto bunchins. Remember to ask questions if you don't understand. You will do yourself more harm if you don't understand and don't ask for an explanation, she reminded. Shizune and the clones nodded. They went to tree line where Shizune used Doden release to make some desks for the bunchins to kneel at before cloning the books she brought so the bunchins could each have a copy as she taught. Tsunade turned to the remaining bunchins. All right, 10 of you come here, she called over. When the 10 stood before her, she reached into the water and pulled out some rocks. You 10 will be using your chakra to separate the different colors from the powder again. She crushed the rocks into powder and put the dust in a clone's hands. She repeated this until all the bunchins had a handful of powdered rocks. Go sit on the riverbank and concentrate. You don't need to do this quickly yet, for now focus on just doing it correctly. Speed will come with practice, she instructed. The clones nodded and got to work. Now for the remaining bunchins, I want you to divide into 2 groups of 45. She waited for the groups to divide themselves, though there were times that she needed to intervene to prevent the bunchins from dispelling each other due to disagreements. All right, the group on my left, she raised her left hand to speed this up, will go back to tree walking with the same instructions as before. You will run, and when you can run without concentrating, you will walk, and when you can do that without concentrating, you will float a leaf with your chakra in your hand. While you may not get past this point today, if you do, put them on different parts of your body. The best way to know when you succeed is the same as before, you can do it without thinking about it. The clones nodded before going away from the group Shizune was teaching and began their part of the training. She turned to the remaining group. You lot will be doing water walking with the same instructions, however the order for you is reversed. You will walk, then you will run, you will then add the leaves. Do you understand? She seemed to get a nod from all the clones before sending them off. Tsunade turned to the real one. Now you and I will go back to taijutsu on the water. With your large chakra pool, doing it this way will be the quicker way to get your chakra control to where I would like it to be. Naruto looked like he wanted to ask a question but also looked like he was holding himself back. Remember, I told you that were no stupid questions, so if you have one, ask. Taking a deep breath, Naruto asked his question, why not have clones work with me on the taijutsu katas? If they can transfer the memories back, shouldn't that help me learn the style quicker? Tsunade smiled at the question. Good question, she complimented. Theoretically it could, however we have already split how many different sources you will be gaining knowledge from, especially with the set Shizune is teaching. Also you don't have the best habits in taijutsu, which I suspect is from your former instructors, so until I am sure that I have helped you correct what they taught you that was wrong as well as ensure that you can do each movement correctly, you will not be using bunchins to aid you, for now. If you practice a style or train with bad habits, they could leak into what you are trying to do and erase all the progress you would be making or prevent you from making any, she explained. Naruto seemed to appreciate the answer. Now let's get to it. If you want to use bunchins to help you learn this, then the more solid your form is, the quicker you can use them to help you. Keep in mind that for every kata you get right, I want you to do a bodyweight movement of my choice for the reps of my choosing, understand? Naruto nodded his accent and got in the stance she showed him earlier, hands up in front of his face while being slightly open with elbows tucked in, standing on the balls of his feet, while slightly leaning forward. "Begin," she ordered. Hours have passed since Naruto started his training with Tsunade and Shizune. A tired Naruto laid panting on the riverbed while Tsunade and Shizune watched the tired blonde lay down, though Shizune was sitting down as she herself was tired from teaching 50 students. "Well, I have to say I am proud of both of you," complimented Tsunade. "Thank you, Tsunade-sama." "Yeah, huff, huff, thanks Oba-san," panted out Naruto. "Well, let's get going. We can't stay out here without camping gear, and I really prefer to take a shower after today," commented Tsunade. Shizune stood to her feet while Naruto struggled to turn over. Tsunade rolled her eyes before she went over and began carrying Naruto bridal style. Naruto attempted to protest, however he was too tired. "Hey, I can walk on my own," he said weakly after a while. Tsunade shook her head before shifting him to cradle his head on her shoulder, making Shizune get flashbacks to how she used to with her uncle. "Hush Gaki, you're tired right now, rest up so we can get back to it in the morning," she told him softly, like how she used to do with her brother. Hearing this, Naruto smiled lightly before falling asleep in Tsunade's arms. Shizune looked away with her eyes before she rubbed her arm. Tsunade gave her a quizzical look. Tsunade-sama, we never found out where he lived," she said with a dusting of pink on her cheeks. Tsunade also blushed in embarrassment before clearing her throat. "Well, for now we will take him with us to the hotel. Hopefully he will be rested enough to tell us where he lives so we can at least get him a change of clothes. He's too tired to remember what to do if we tell him to meet us here tomorrow," Tsunade responded. Not seeing a better solution, Shizune agreed while packing the books they have before heading back to the village while Taunton stood next to Tsunade. As they walked back to Konoha, Tsunade asked, "So what did you cover in his lessons?" "Well, first I did a basic assessment to see what he needed help with. I found out that while he could read and write, his handwriting definitely needs work." Tsunade expected some of this. Being the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi, it would make sense that the boy could at least read and write, or else Sarutobi-sensei may lose him to a contract he signs without being able to tell what he agreed to, thought Tsunade. However, his academic knowledge has much to be desired. He seems behind in many subjects that should have been covered while he was in the academy. While he can do basic math, anything more complicated than that and he struggles. The same could be said about the general knowledge of the very village he lives in. It seems that his tale of not being taught at the academy seems to be more severe than he let on. He was very hesitant to ask questions at first, however after much encouragement on my part eventually his clones began to ask questions. From there he began to understand the material at a good pace. If this keeps up, I should be able to fix what he should have had in a few weeks. Currently the lesson plan is just making up what he should have learned in the academy and his calligraphy. Tsunade was angered by what she was hearing and what the boy had to go through. This is not what grandfather wanted when he created the village, and if he was a member of her family, well, let's just say that building supports don't take to kindly being pressed sideways. The three arrived at the hotel they were staying at rather quickly. It too was on the outskirts so they didn't get seen by anyone, especially at this time of day. They discreetly made their way to their room, which Shizune got for Tsunade as she was still carrying Naruto. It was a fairly standard hotel room with 2 queen-size beds and a nightstand on each side of the beds. Tsunade set Naruto on her bed while Shizune placed the books on the small table the room had. Tsunade gently nudged Naruto awake. He opened his eyes groggily, and said rather quietly, "Oba-san. Hey Gaki, you need to take a shower so you can sleep better, okay? But before you do, can you tell me where you live so can get you a change of clothes?" Naruto nodded tiredly as he told them that he lived in an apartment that was on the top floor of his building located close to the academy. He was sure to tell them that it was in an oval-like building with a small deck, as well as the address. Though he did have to repeat himself a few times as he did mumble from time to time. Once they got his key, Tsunade sent him to shower. "Shizune, you stay with him. I'll go get him a pack so if this happens again, we won't have to worry about it." Shizune was about object until Naruto had trouble with the door. Shizune sighed as she went to help Naruto. Tsunade grabbed Naruto's key and headed out. She had to go out discreetly, especially with where his apartment was located. When she got through his door, she can't say she was pleased. While it was decently sized, having a separate kitchen, bath, and bed, the walls seemed to have cracks throughout them. There were garbage bags in some of the corners of the room. He had a clothesline in his bedroom. There was food containers stacked all over the place. If she had to guess, this place was in good condition when he got it, but it seemed like no one checked in on the boy to make sure he was doing all right. This place is in desperate need of repairs. It also seems like this kid has no sense of cleanliness. Did anyone look after him while he was younger, or was he just left on his own? That makes no sense. Surely someone would have taught this kid basic cleanliness, or at least checked on him, thought Tsunade. She made a cage bunchen of her own that at least got rid of all the trash. At least he dusts and scrubs the place down, though something tells me he doesn't use sanitizers, she thought as she began to pack a backpack she suspected he used for missions. Once the bunchen left his apartment and threw the trash out, she made her way back to the hotel. When she arrived, she saw Shizune trying to convince Naruto to not put on his dirty clothes. "Hey Naruto, I brought you some clothes. Put a clean set on then get to bed, okay?" Naruto nodded tiredly before going back in the bathroom to change. By the looks of things when he got out, he seemed to have brushed his teeth as well. With this, Tsunade all but pushed Shizune into the bathroom, saying she was the more exhausted of the pair, so she needed to go next. Tsunade-sama sure has changed when she met this boy. She hasn't complained about not having any sake since the start of his training. "I know it has only been a day, but I can't help but think what effect this boy has on her," she thought as she freshened up. When Shizune came out of the bathroom, she noticed Tsunade sitting in a chair watching over Naruto as he sleeps. Curious as to what her master was doing, Shizune coughed lightly, getting Tsunade's attention. Tsunade, realizing what she was caught doing, had a light dusting of pink on her cheeks as she moves to the bathroom to freshen up. "What is wrong with me? Why am I obsessing over this boy? Sure, he reminds me of them, but that can't be it, can it?" she thought as she got ready for the night. When Tsunade left the bathroom, she saw that both Naruto and Shizune are already asleep, with Tonton taking up residency on Shizune's bed. Since Naruto was in her bed, she made her way over to it, resigning herself to sharing it with him. Noticing how peaceful he looks, she goes over to him and lightly pokes him on the forehead with a smile as an attempt to move him over slightly so she can also rest in bed. While it did move him like she intended, something happened that she didn't expect. Naruto had grabbed onto her hand after she poked him. By the looks of things, he was heavily asleep, and not aware that he did that. Not wanting to wrench her hand out of his grip and risk disturbing both him and Shizune, Tsunade decided that she would let the Gaki hold her hand as he slept, but she would sleep under the top sheet rather than both, to retain some form of modesty between the two. Naruto awoke to a feeling of something soft engulfing him. He tried to open his eyes to see what it was, but that was proving difficult. Whatever it was preventing him from opening his eyes. He also noted that he felt two limbs wrapped around him. This is probably what was keeping the thing that was preventing him from opening his eyes from moving. His wiggling and shifting elicited a soft from someone nearby. Tsunade was sleeping soundly in her bed. Something was keeping her warm despite being under the sheet of the bed she was staying while in Konoha. Whatever it was, she seemed to be holding it close based on the amount of contact she was feeling along her arms and bust. Suddenly it began to move and shift, probably trying to out of her grasp based on what she was feeling. The problem was that whatever it was moving around within her ample bosom, which caused her to as if she was stretching while waking up. As her eyes fluttered open, she noticed a mop of spiky blonde hair wiggling to get free as she held its owner close to her. At least they were still under separate sheets, she noticed, with a barely noticeable tint of pink on her cheeks. She let Naruto go, allowing him to see what had held him so close in the morning. When he saw that he was snuggled into Tsunade's bosom, he became afraid. He was afraid she would hit him for being a pervert like she had seen him do to that white-haired man. He was sitting there, waiting for the punishment he believed was coming. Though he had to admit, they were very soft to the touch and rather pleasant to be in contact with, causing a noticeable blush to adorn his cheeks. Eventually Tsunade got out of bed. What could she do? She was the one that held him close to her, so she can't blame him for something he didn't do. She let out a long and heavy sigh as she stood, revealing to Naruto she was wearing a full-body, violet, silk nightgown. "Get up," she ordered. "Once I am done changing, you will go and change while I wake Shizune. Once she is ready, we will grab some breakfast under a henge in the hotel restaurant. You will eat what I approve and the amount I tell you to get. After that we will go back to the riverbed and resume your training, understood?" Naruto could only nod dumbly. He was in shock that she wasn't berating him, like his teammate would do if she believed he messed up or did something wrong, or being sent to the other side of the village like the white-haired pervert while being told he was a demon, and she wasn't going to train him anymore. He didn't come out of his shocked state until the bag he usually packed for long-term missions landed in front of him. He looked to see where it came from, only to see a now changed Tsunade moving to wake Shizune and by proxy, Taunton. Remembering her instructions, he quickly moved to the bathroom to get ready for a new day of training. Once Shizune was ready, the group hanged into a different appearance, ones that made them not stand out and look rather ordinary before collecting what they would need for his training and making their way to the hotel restaurant that was serving breakfast. Naruto looked around, taking in the sights and smells he didn't often come across. He looked like he was ready to run over to the provided buffet and just take what he wanted. However, he was stopped by Tsunade as she placed a hand on his shoulder. He looked up at Tsunade, confusion on his face. "Remember what I told you?" Tsunade waited for his response. After a few seconds he remembered as he smacked his hand with his hand. "Yeah, you said that you would be telling me what I can eat and how much," he responded with a reaffirming nod. She nodded in confirmation. "What I want you to get is 2 servings of eggs, a cup of oats, some fruit of your choice and some congee with dried shredded fish." Naruto looked at her confused. "Why those foods, Oba-san?" Tsunade appreciated the question. "Well, eggs and the congee are a source of protein that will help with muscle development. This won't guarantee you larger muscles, but it will help you grow stronger as you work out. The oats are to help you stay full so that you do not need to stop training due feeling hungry as often. However, if you eat too many it could hinder you by having you gain unnecessary weight. The fruit is for the essential nutrients to help with memory and help you gain what you won't get from meats," she explained. While Naruto didn't fully grasp why she chose the foods she did, he did understand that they would help him grow stronger, and for him that was a good enough reason to follow her advice. Besides, he bet that either her or Shizune would end up teaching him what all of this means anyway. With a nod of confirmation, the 3 set out to get their food, Naruto only getting what Tsunade told him to, though she did give him a stern glare whenever he tried to go off of the prescribed diet. Though these were not foods he was not used to, some of them were pretty good. When they were finished eating, the group went back to the riverbank to resume the training they had started the previous day, though what he learned from Shizune changed, as well as the addition that he had to try and catch Taunton for 2 hours, much to the pig's protest. A week has passed since Naruto began training with Tsunade, and he has to admit that this has been the most intensive week of training he had been through. With the diet he has been following from Tsunade every day, he noticed that he had started growing a bit as he was eating far healthier than when he was just eating ramen. He had also learned a lot of stuff from Shizune. He didn't even know that there were more Biju than the Kyuubi. Who knew what you could learn this stuff from history class? When the end of the week came, Naruto got excited. Using 100 clones for 7 days a couple times a day really helps with improving one's chakra control. He had really gotten the hang of Tsunade's taijutsu style, especially the dodging part. He also learned to not call Tsunade Oba-san crazy, it gets her more riled up. When his control was dubbed good enough, Tsunade started to teach him her chakra-enhanced strength. He also noticed he was not tiring as easily. Apparently, the body weight movements, as Tsunade called them, were helping his muscle development and improving his stamina, while chasing Taunton improved his speed and reaction time due to how she could make very sharp changes in movement. The real problem came through with the stretching cool down. As she did them with him, he became very aware of how beautiful she was, and it sometimes made his chest race and sweat a little more when he was close to her sometimes. It also didn't help that she still hugged him overnight, as he still found himself waking up either holding her hand or her hugging him. He did ask why his clones were still doing calligraphy though. Because by the end of the second week I'll be having you learn fuinjutsu. Naruto gave her a questioning look. You see, fuinjutsu is an art that many people rarely use, however it can be very strong. Remember the Yondaime used it to defeat the Kyuubi? She asked, to which he nodded his response. There are also explosive tags and storage scroll, to name a few examples. With this art you could even learn a seal that would even boost your healing rate to such a degree that even if you lost your heart, you could grow it back, she had told him. His reaction of course was that of a starry-eyed child, greatly expressing his eagerness to learn this awesome jutsu. Hold on, first you need to have better handwriting so you can make the seals. One wrong brush stroke could mean that you'll be out of commission to fight the Neji kid you want to fight so badly, she warned him. This, obviously, had gotten his attention. He wasn't going to miss out on his chance to teach Neji-tem a lesson. Plus, she has given him more training than anyone else he has met or learned from, while Shizune made the stuff he was learning far easier for him to understand, so that was a plus. He would listen to Tsunade-chan when she warned him about how dangerous fuinjutsu is. Tsunade faced her latest protege with her arms crossed under her magnificent bust. Are you ready to start learning my enhanced strength technique Gaki? Naruto excitedly bobbed his head in anticipation. Yes. He shouted eagerly. All right, but before we get started, I want you to make your clones again, however. This time however I want you to make 200 Kaga Bunchins. Naruto sat still with his hand raised, waiting for her explanation. He had learned that if he asked her or waited patiently, she would explain her actions. Realizing that he was asking why she wanted him to do this, she clarified, you are probably asking why we are increasing the amount of bunchins. With a nod of confirmation she continues, well, for this technique we are adding clones to ensure that you at least have a rudimentary version ready for your match. While you will still be having a set doing water walking with the leaves, they will also be practicing the katas of my style while we work on the enhanced strength technique, as you can never have enough control over your chakra, especially if you want to use your tenant's chakra in the future. The set that would normally be doing tree walking will be meditating. This will help you understand your chakra's flow, which you will be attempting to manipulate, which will help you feel if you ever get put under a genjutsu, as your flow will be disrupted when under one's effects. Since I know Shizune has gone over the basic principles and methods of escaping a genjutsu with you, being able to manipulate your chakra at such a level will help with your ability to perform the personal release method, as you will be able to feel the change in your chakra flow. Naruto looked a little lost with the explanation. Tsunade waited somewhat patiently to see if he had any questions. So basically, the point of meditation is to make sure I'm not affected by genjutsu. Tsunade shook her head in the negative. Not quite. See, everyone can be affected by genjutsu, since it is an art centered around subtlety. What it will do however is help you recognize one by your chakra flow and make it easier for you to escape, she clarified. Naruto took up a thinking pose before responding, that makes sense. So, when do we get started? He asked eagerly. With a smirk on her face Tsunade responded, right now, make your bunchins and we will get started. Naruto responded with a smile of his own while making his bunchins, who set off to their appointed tasks with Tsunade's group staying to hear her instructions. Alright, each of you take up positions along the side of the cliff, make sure you are evenly spaced between each other. Tsunade waited patiently for the bunchins to get into position. Now what this technique involves is concentrating chakra to your fist. While this part does not require much control, what does is when you release it. You need to release the chakra right at the point of impact outward from your fist. This is all about timing and control, however since we have been working greatly on your control you will need to work on your timing. Use small amounts of chakra, enough to slightly crack the cliff. You don't need to worry about using large amounts of chakra for now. The more chakra you use the more damage your hits will do, but this is not what we are focusing on. For now, we want to get your timing down, understand? The bunchins nodded in understanding before turning around to get started. Oh, before you start, she turns to the real Naruto. Every 10 strikes you do, I want you to do the following. 10 wide push-ups, 10 squats, 10 high knees, and 10 close push-ups, then get back to striking. For the clones, alternate which fist you strike with, stay in your stance the entire time even when you are feeling exhausted. Remember, when you get sloppy your opponent will strike their hardest, she ordered. With that the clones and Naruto got in their stance and began striking the cliffside. In the meantime, Tsunade made sure that the clones that were separating different colored crushed rocks had their material before staying mostly with the clones that were practicing their katas, ensuring they are keeping their form proper as they practiced. The Bunshins with Shizune have recently just finished the basics that Academy had went over. Due to this, the Bunshins had begun learning the basics of medical ninjutsu theory with the hope of being able to use the mystical palm by the 3rd week in the month. Partway through the week Naruto brought up something to Tsunade's attention while they were eating lunch. "You look like something has your attention, what's up?" Naruto looked a little confused before telling Tsunade and Shizune what's on his mind. "Well, something weird has been happening I guess with the clones that are meditating. It's like they can see these patches of blue around them. The blue patches also seem to have different levels of intensity," he told them. Shizune and Tsunade looked curiously at him, both suspecting the same thing. "Tell me Naruto-kun, do these patches move as if they are alive?" Naruto had to think about it for a bit. Yes. I sometimes see two moving a lot while some of them seem to have concentrations around certain areas like they are trying to use the blue energy," he told them. "Naruto, you access this ability through meditation, correct?" Naruto nodded in confirmation. "I want you to meditate for me, then let me know when you start to see these blue patches," Tsunade ordered. After a while Naruto let Tsunade know that he can see them, though there aren't as many as when his clones were meditating. "That's fine, tell me, do you see two patches close to you?" Yeah, one is really bright while the other doesn't seem as bright," he relayed. That statement confirmed for the two women that Naruto was a censor, however they were curious how powerful this ability was. He mentioned before that he could see the blue being manipulated to maybe he can even see a person actually molding their chakra. "Naruto, I want you to follow the brighter patch as you meditate. Let me know if you can see any shifts in the patch." "Okay Oba-san." With that, the bigger patch started to slowly move away from him. After moving around for a bit, Naruto noticed that it seemed like the blue was gathering at a specific point before it was unleashed. A loud crack was heard and the gathered blue was gone. Naruto opened his eyes quickly to see that Tsunade was standing in front of a downed tree that looked like she just punched it. She was also standing where he had seen the bright blue patch in his mind. "Naruto, were you able to follow the movement of the blue patch as well as when it became concentrated within it?" asked Tsunade. Naruto quickly nodded his head. "Yeah. What was that?" he asked quickly. "Well Gaki, it seems that you are a sensor nin. Meaning you can track chakra signatures, those are the blue patches you described. You can even see the chakra a person had being molded, which is uncommon for a sensor. Does that mean I have a super cool and unique skill?" asked an excited Naruto. Tsunade rubbed the top of his head. "Yes it does Gaki. However that means that your meditating clones will have to work on this ability since you may be able to take it further if you get used to it," she told him. "Alright, let's get to it then," shouted an excited Naruto. "Alright, when you make your clones send the group to where they are going to meditate. I'll give them their instructions then, in the meantime have your other clones continue the route we have been using thus far." With a nod Naruto created his clones and joined the ones that were punching the cliff. The group that was to meditate waited patiently for Tsunade to give them their instructions. Ever since he was able to get his large reserves under control as well as spending time with Shizune and Tsunade, his need for attention had fallen off a bit as well as his chakra-induced ADHD seemed to be a thing of the past. Now instead of being a squirrel on caffeine, he was just an excitable 13-year-old, who Tsunade had to admit she was enjoying his company as well as him being her cuddle buddy, though she won't admit that part to anyone. "Alright, listen up. When you are sensing the chakras around the area, I want you lot to focus on individual signatures before trying to look for groups. Focus on the molding of chakra in the patches. See if you can trace to where the chakra is being molded at and making the images clearer. I suspect that you could fully see a person's shape, not just the patch, if you can see the molding. Some of you, I want to spread your range as far as you can. Lock on to signatures of animals if you must. You will see, especially with this ability, that animals have their own chakra as well. Use them to work on practicing seeing far-away targets that are well beyond your line of sight, she told them. With the instructions given out, the clones got to work. After a long day of training, Naruto was once again dragged to Tsunade and Shizune's hotel. He didn't mind it, he just wished she wouldn't carry him there. It was nice though, he felt safe and warm with Tsunade, though he still woke up a little tense that she would get angry with him because of how they woke up. But it was nice to not wake up in his lonely apartment. He liked that through his conditioning he was getting faster and lasting longer when he was training, especially the dodge training she always had him do after lunch and before their cool down. Their after training stretches still made him feel a bit heated in his chest, and he was certainly doing his best to hide the blushes he got when she smiled at him. As the trio entered the hotel room, Tsunade had something for him to work on. "Naruto," she called. He looked at her through tied eyes. "I want you to spend some time using your sensory ability to sense the people that walk by the hotel and track a group for as long as you can." Naruto looked at her like she was insane. He was really tired. How was he supposed to stay awake long enough to track a group of people in Konoha? She apparently knew what he was thinking, since she turned to him and said, "Naruto, just because you are tired isn't an excuse. When you are out on a mission, will you let your responsibilities to your team go simply because you are tired? Will you give up in a fight because you are tired?" These questions made him remember his training back in Wave. He had trained all through the night on multiple occasions just to get the tree walking exercise down. This was no different. With his mind set, he ran towards the bed before he was stopped by Tsunade. "Sit on the floor. You are still grungy from training and I don't think you want to sleep in sheets that will smell like your day of training, do you?" Naruto rubbed the back of his head sheepishly. You're right, Tsunade-chan," he replied, not thinking about the suffix. Naruto took a seat in the middle of the room before training his sensory ability. As Naruto rushed over to begin meditating, he didn't notice that Tsunade was developing a blush, however Shizune did. Tsunade-sama has changed since she has met Naruto-kun. For some reason she has been getting awfully close to him. It's like she is treating him as a younger brother and she didn't want to continue on that path as she didn't see the older woman treating anyone like that since her uncle's passing. That was why she constantly gambled and drank sake, to try and repress the memories of both Dan and Naoki. But she isn't freezing at the sight of blood anymore. I mean, sure, she locked up when he cut his knuckles open or bled a little from dodging what she threw at him, but now it seems like she is over it. What has caused this change? What does Naruto-kun process that has helped Tsunade-sama? Questioned Shizune as she freshened up for bed. It would be another 2 hours before Tsunade would conclude Naruto's training for the day. Periodically she would look out the window and make sure that the targets Naruto was tracking were moving in the directions she could see. To her delight, he was starting to track his targets with decent clarity, though he did fall off eventually, though that was when they were beyond her sight. He could also tell if they were young or old as well. This proves his abilities indeed had a lot of room to grow. It would be the end of the second week of training that all three would experience a surprise that would shake both Naruto and Tsunade to their core and bring the two to becoming inseparable. The end of the second week came rather quickly for Naruto. He was happy about all the training he was receiving. The calisthenics were doing wonders for him. Chasing down the stylish pig forced his speed and agility to grow, as was the dodge training he was subjected to by Tsunade. He could see it in the mirror at the end of each week. His physique had improved from being just lean to lean with definition, especially since she had dramatically increased the amount of reps she had him do each day for his calisthenics. Heck, he could even clasp his hands behind his back by reaching from the top and the bottom of his back, which greatly excited him. His chakra control had gone up insanely well thanks to the first week, as well as his clones continuing to work on it through the second week. He could do the dumb Bunshin no Jutsu now. When he asked about it after training and the lessons from Shizune-sensei, Shizune explained that the jutsu use very little chakra, as it is used to be diversionary jutsu as well as one taught to learning shinobi, so they would have some means of escape if they had ever come across a senior shinobi. This was especially true during the clan wars era that preceded the hidden villages, where very young children could be ambushed and killed almost how he and his team were by Zabuza. That amazed Naruto. Originally, he figured that the jutsu was useless as it was just an illusion, but if it could save lives then he could definitely see it as useful in such a situation. When it came to his super strength, he was making a lot of progress. Though he didn't like using so little chakra when he started. When he received the memories of a clone about to lose its arm as it got a little ambitious in using more chakra than Tsunade told him to use, he had chills running down his spine from that one for the whole day. He greatly listened to Tsunade when she told him what to do when practicing the super strength jutsu. When he was noting his progress, he was able to easily chip away at the cliff face, putting spiderweb cracks in it as well as chipping away pieces every time he struck. In fact, she said he was ready to add more chakra to each strike. Alright Naruto, I think you are ready to add more chakra to your strikes. You have been able to add and control your chakra in every strike along the cliff face. Now I want you to shatter each boulder I make for you, Tsunade explained while Naruto stood eagerly in front of her while he had a set of clones doing the katas for Tsunade as she had a Kage Bunshin overseeing his that were practicing while water walking. He still had a set with Shizune, studying the more advanced basics of medical ninjutsu, focused on muscles and bones. She and Tsunade hoped it would help him pick his strikes better when fighting an opponent like a Hyuga who leave their torso vulnerable when they strike. He also had a final set that was meditating to better get accustomed to his sensory ability while also doing the powder separation training for multitasking, as Tsunade put it. Tsunade told him that by the final week she was going to start having him use it while dodging to start learning how to use it in combat. Create 60 Kage Bunshins and we shall get started, she ordered. Eager to get started, Naruto created the number she wanted as she did a few seals before slamming a palm on the ground and shouting, Doden, Daichidokaku. She shouted as an entire field of boulders raised out of the ground. Naruto and his clones took up spots in front of the risen boulders, waiting for her signal to begin. As Tsunade crossed her arms under her impressive bust, she gave a nod to begin, though Naruto was blushing when he noticed it. He quickly shook his head before getting started. When the group finished lunch, Shizune had taken a set of bunshins to resume his medical studies, with 2 sets of 50 went to meditate and water walk with leaves encasing both of his arms, while Tsunade took the real Naruto. Alright Naruto, it's time for dodge training. Are you ready? Tsunade asked. Naruto nodded his head in affirmative. Tsunade smiled. Okay, I'm going to be throwing any projectiles faster as well as any strikes will also be coming faster. There will be times I will use my enhanced strength. You will need to use your sensory ability to determine which strike is enhanced so you learn to use the ability in combat. Naruto nodded eagerly with a smile on his face in anticipation for Tsunade's training. The dodge training had been going on for almost 4 hours now and Naruto was getting a little slower as Tsunade kept ramping up the intensity. Sweat was pouring down his brow as he took in gulps of air between each reprieve at this point. He dodged a quick side kick by jumping back, creating distance between himself and Tsunade. Much to his terror, Tsunade used her incredible strength to rip a boulder out of the ground, which she hurled at him with insane speed. Naruto went wide-eyed at the incoming projectile. From the speed it was traveling, he was quickly learning he couldn't dodge it. Firming his resolve, Naruto concentrated his chakra to his fist as he prepares to destroy the incoming projectile. Thanks to his inexcusably heavy chakra control training under Tsunade, gathering his chakra and releasing it was something he could do nearly on the fly. Naruto quickly channeled chakra to his fist in the time it took for the boulder to reach him. Naruto threw his fist forward to smash the boulder, only he was not expecting what accompanied his fist. From his chest, following the path of his fist, were several spiked, golden glowing chains that had spear tips as the leading link on every chain. The chains assisted in utterly destroying the incoming projectile. This act stunned everyone. Tsunade went wide-eyed at what she saw the chains, while Shizune and his bunshins turned to the sound of the chains clinking as they extended. Naruto stared in awe at the chains that came from his chest. Wow, this is so cool. Hey Tsunade Oba-san, what is this? Is it a Kekkei Genkai? He asked in rapid fire. Tsunade stood frozen. Seeing a blonde with the chains she had known her niece, Kushina, to have. That along with his other features confirmed his parents to Tsunade. While Naruto was enjoying his new power, Tsunade walked slowly toward the energetic blonde, eyes wide with robotic steps. Just as she reached him, his golden chains receded into his body. Naruto looked up. Seeing Tsunade's expression, he asked, "Oba-chan, are you okay?" Tsunade knelt down to his level, before pulling him into a powerful hug, shocking Naruto. "Oba-san." Tears ran down her cheeks. "We are not alone, Naruto," she said through her tears. This shocked Naruto. "What do you mean, Oba-chan?" Tsunade continued to hold Naruto close as she said the words that Naruto would never let go of. "I know who your parents are. In fact, I am your biological Oba-san," Tsunade told him. Naruto was shocked. He had family, the one thing he wanted above anything. Naruto slowly raised his arms, returning the hug Tsunade was giving him as his own tears began to flow. "See, can you tell me who my parents were?" he asked softly. Tsunade nods as she pulls away. "Your Ka-san's name was Kushina Uzumaki," she started. "She was a tomboy, especially when pushed," she started to tell him, effectively calling practice to a close for the two. As she talked, Naruto had somehow ended up in her lap with his back to her. She had to hold him tightly as he broke down when he was told that his Tsunade was the Yondaime. Naruto was crying as he sat in Tsunade's lap. "Why?" he whispered. "Why did he seal the Kyuubi into me?" Tsunade held Naruto tightly, unsure of what to say that could alleviate the boy she held in her arms. Deciding to talk about how she knew him, Tsunade spoke. "They loved and trusted you above anyone else that could bear this burden. He and your Ka-san loved you greatly. And while I believe Kushina would have never wanted you to carry the same burden she did, your Tsunade would have trusted you to be strong enough to handle it, and from what I see he was right," she said as she kissed the top of his head. Naruto looked up at Tsunade with wide eyes as tears trickled down his cheeks. He latched onto the arms that were wrapped around his waist, holding them close. Tsunade leaned into his back while holding him tightly, showing as much comfort as she could to her oi. After Naruto had calmed down, Tsunade continued to tell Naruto about his parents. "One skill your parents were highly proficient in was Fuinjutsu. For your Ka-san it was expected. After all, those of Uzumaki descent find themselves predisposed to learning the art, claiming that it comes naturally to them. Your Tsunade, who was not an Uzumaki, was just as proficient. So, who knows, maybe you are too. Would you like to find out?" Naruto thought about it. If he was to study, then he would be closer to his parents in some way. That was enough of an excuse for him to give him his answer. "Yes," he all but shouted with a vigorous nod. Tsunade began to pet his head. "Then we shall get started tomorrow," she tells him with a brilliant smile. Despite Naruto learning about his parents, the day quickly came to a close. He was greatly worn out, falling asleep in Tsunade's arms. If he was awake, he would feel embarrassed from resting his head on Tsunade's bust. In spite of his position, Tsunade carried the sleeping blonde back to the hotel to lay him down to rest. As she carefully placed Naruto in the bed they shared, Tsunade went out of the hotel in a henge to gather the supplies for Naruto to begin learning Fuinjutsu. If he has his parents' skill in the field, he could definitely learn a skill like applying seals with chakra in no time. As she returned to the hotel, she noticed Naruto still asleep in bed, and based on what she could see he had presumably woken up to get ready for bed, while Shizune was coming out of the shower. "Ah, Tsunade-sama," she said in a whisper, "the shower is free and ready for you." Tsunade gave a nod of appreciation and acknowledgement to her apprentice's statement before setting down her recent purchase and heading into the shower. When she came out, Tsunade noticed Shizune and Taunton had taken to their own bed and were breathing softly. She, herself, climbed into bed, though this time she didn't bother to sleep a sheet above Naruto. Stroking his cheek lightly, she was surprised when he rubbed against her hand as a small smile seemed to form as he slept. Smiling lightly, Tsunade wrapped an arm around the boy, pulling him into herself, causing him to snuggle into her. Normally she would beat any man that would try what the sleeping blonde had done, however for him she merely kissed the top of his head before she too fell asleep. As she held him that night, the sensation that Tsunade has been feeling since she has met this boy was becoming stronger. Instead of reminding her of Dan, it was stronger, making her more possessive of the young blonde. The light of the morning sun had shone brightly through the now open window of the hotel room that Tsunade and Shizune were using. The light seemed to be able to find just the right spot to hit Tsunade in her eyes. Tsunade let out a low groan. In a low tone, "Shizune, close the curtain," she said as she attempted to shift away from the light only to feel something sniggling into her as she moved. With one eye cracked open she looked down to a mop of spiky, sun-kissed blonde hair. Recognizing who had this shade of blonde hair, Tsunade brought her head down as if to rub her nose in his soft hair as she maintained her hold on the young blonde, nearly falling back to sleep in the process. Naruto had some light bleeding into the corner of his eyes. Trying to avoid the light and remain asleep, Naruto nestles into his warm pillows, one of which seems to be on top of his head, though he wasn't going to complain if it blocked the light. Whatever he was snuggling into made him feel warm and safe. This is one of the best sleeps he has had in a while, even more so than when he first snuggled into Tsunade. That thought nearly snapped him awake. This feeling, it's like when he snuggled into Tsunade's bosom the first time. If his intuition was correct, his heart began to race at the implications, causing his face to heat up. Apparently, this was not a good thing, as whatever he was up against pulled him closer, presumably for more warmth. With the comforting grip that was around him, Naruto resigned himself to the punishment he was set to receive. It would be around another hour before Shizune would wake both her sensei and their shared pupil. Shizune approached the sleeping blondes. After seeing the two cuddling for 2 weeks now, the sight no longer was surprising to her as the first time she saw it. "Tsunade-sama, Naruto-kun, it's time to wake up. The buffet is closing soon," she told the sleeping blondes. 5 more minutes, Shizune," said Tsunade, sounding like she was nursing a hangover. Was Naruto's input. Shizune giggled behind her sleeve before she picked up Taunton and used her to nudge the two sleeping blondes. Taunton, getting the hint, used her nose to nudge the two blondes awake. Tsunade was the first to wake, and with her jostling Naruto was woken up. The groggy blondes met eye to eye, causing the two to blush, though neither were quick to separate. Giving the younger of the two blondes a head rub, Tsunade sat up with Naruto before encouraging him to get dressed so they could start the day. The three, plus Piglet, arrived at their usual training area, though admittedly later than usual. This was due to two blondes wanting to sleep in, though Shizune couldn't help but feel a little jealous at the budding couple. "Alright Naruto, since we are late for our usual training, we are going to be doing things a little differently today. We will be focusing on the manipulation of your chains. From what I remember of your Ka-san and my Ba-chan using them, it was equal parts chakra control, which we have been doing and probably allowed you to spawn them, and concentration to control them. Both Kushina and Mito Ba-chan could alter their movement so that if an opponent dodged their chains, they could have the chain move to follow them, or even stop them to make sure an ally wouldn't be harmed." Naruto was in awe of his Ka-chan's skill and his grand dance. No matter, to hear their prowess with their chains, made him giddy to get started to surpass his family members. "Now to start your training, we will have you use 1 to 2 chains at a time, having them move in sync before we have you try to move them independently. The next step will be to have you walk while they are acting, since keeping you stationary will make you a sitting duck." Naruto barely managed to keep his excitement contained. If not for his prior training with Tsunade, he would be shouting and bouncing around until she clobbered him. Now, however, he was giddy to get started without doing something that would make a scene. It was a few hours of training before lunch was called. As per the new norm, Naruto was sitting in Tsunade's lap as the four partook of their lunch. "You're doing great with your training, Naru," commented Tsunade. Naruto let out a sigh. "I guess, but so far, I can only get 2 chains to go in one direction. I can't get them to do separate actions," complained Naruto. Tsunade rubbed Naruto's head to comfort him. "Don't worry about that for now. I mean, you were able to use your chains to lift a log and move it to the other side of the river with barely any damage. Not any easy feat for someone who has just unlocked their Kekkei Genkei," praised Tsunade. Naruto's smile came back with her praise. "Well, the day's not over. You'll see by the end of the day. I'll be able to have them move separately. Datbeo, cheered Naruto. Tsunade's smile grew from his declaration. I have no doubt, she told him. The middle of the week was closing fast. Naruto had kept his word to Tsunade, being able to create two chains that were capable of operating independently of each other. This success was met with high praise from both Tsunade and Shizune while Taunton was clapping for his success. This led to an event that surprised both older women. Nay, Suan-chan, can we go on a date tomorrow? This question shocked both older women, though Tsunade was the most shocked. She hadn't been on a date since her fiancé had passed. Of all things to happen, she certainly hadn't expected Naruto to ask her on one. The feeling she had since she had been near the younger blonde made its presence known once again with this question. She tried her best to deny the feeling, not wanting to be hurt once again. I'm sorry Naruto, she says weakly, closing her eyes to not see his downcast expression. But I think we should focus on your training, after all you only have a week and a half until the finals. Shizune, knowing how much this could help her master, especially with all the progress she has been making in improving her emotional health thanks to the young blonde, decided to help. Oh come now Tsunade-sama, surely one day of relaxation will do no harm. After all, a day off can do wonders for recovery. Tsunade, now being pressed by her apprentice, was not sure how to handle the situation. While she could continue to deny the request, it would only make her feel more conflicted. Within her were two sides, her fears saying that if she put herself out there again that she would be hurt once more, and her heart pushing her to accept someone once more into her life and show her that she can have happiness. As the two sides argued within, she could feel herself closing her senses off, not wanting to bear the pain once more. That is until she felt her hand gripping something warm. Looking to her hand, she saw that she had placed her hand once again on Naruto's spiky blonde hair. Despite the argument still raging within, it seemed her unconscious mind made the decision for her, find comfort in the blonde's presence. Tsunade took a deep breath through her nose, preparing herself to give an answer. She thought she would never say yes to anything like this since Dan passed. All right Naruto, we can go on a date tomorrow. Naruto was awestruck. This was going to be his first date ever. He had asked out Sakura-chan several times only to be met with denial every time. Now here was this beautiful woman, the most beautiful he had ever seen, agreeing to go on a date with him. For this he did the only thing he could do. He let out a cheer of happiness. Yada, he shouted out with a fist raised in success. His cheer got him a smile from Shizune, who was also happy that her master agreed to the date. She knows that Tsunade has been making stride with her emotional pain since being around Naruto, but if this goes well then maybe her heart can finally be healed. Tsunade on the other hand had different feelings on the matter. I hope that I do not regret this. I don't think I can take another loss on this scale, thought a worried Tsunade. As the day came to a close and the promise of a date to come in the morning, Tsunade had one major thing to iron out with Naruto. Hey, Naruto, called Tsunade, getting the younger blonde's attention. When we go out tomorrow, I will be doing so under a partial henge. This complete stunned the boy. He couldn't figure why she would do that, unless she didn't want to be seen with him. Before these thoughts could take hold, Tsunade explained herself. As you know, I am a celebrity across the village, and if people see me, then we will have no privacy to ourselves, which will spoil the mood as people interrupt us to talk to me. If we are going on a date, then I want it to be just us and no one spoiling the mood by trying to get in the middle of us. Hearing her explanation sort of lifted his spirit. At least she wasn't embarrassed to be seen with him in public. That being said, she continued, I will be only changing my hair color and hiding the mark on my forehead. I realize how bad it would be for your date to hide all of her appearance. After all, you asked me, not someone else, she stated with a smile. Agreed Naruto. Yeah, I asked the prettiest woman in the world on a date after all, replied a cheerful Naruto. Tsunade once again found her cheeks dusted a little pink by the compliment. With a slight cough into her hand, the trio and Piglet made their way back to the hotel. By the way, stated Tsunade, after your shower this evening I want to check your progress on the seal I told you to start making on your forehead. Your chakra control and super strength training don't appear to be hampered by the multiple areas you are channeling chakra to, but I want to see how far along you are with it. Naruto gave an affirmative nod. He, well that's because I have the best senseis as well as the prettiest, replied a cheerful Naruto. Once his chakra control was at a desired level, as well as learning he was family, Tsunade had begun Naruto's instruction in one of her other original jutsu that used the Byakugo no In of the Uzumaki clan, Sozo Seisei. The seal was created by having a user store vast amounts of their chakra in a single location, to which Tsunade advises is the forehead due to ease of channeling chakra there, where they form a seal to store the chakra to be used in the Sozo Seisei technique as well as its more advanced version, Ninpo Sozo Seisei, Byakugo no Jutsu. While using either would shorten the lifespan of the user, with the Kyuubi's chakra providing assistance. Tsunade theorized that Naruto will not be affected by the adverse effects of using the jutsus, though Naruto was still a ways away from using the Ninpo Sozo Seisei, Byakugo no Jutsu. Also with his incredible reserves, despite only channeling chakra for a few days, he should have a fully formed seal by the end of the week. The morning came all too soon for the sleeping blondes, though unlike usual, Naruto was eager to start the day and enjoy it with Tsunade. Tsunade herself, on the other hand, was trying to stay in bed with her blonde cuddle buddy. "Come on Tsunade-chan," whispered an excited Naruto from between her valley, "we have a date today." Tsunade in response merely rolled the two over so the sun was not peeking into her eyes. Just go back to sleep Naru," whispered a sleeping Tsunade. Really wanting to get their date started, Naruto had no idea what to do and was hoping Shizune would help him. Sadly, that did not happen and he fell back to sleep in Tsunade's arms for another hour or two until the older blonde woke up. "Hey, Naruto," whispered a waking Tsunade as she shook his shoulder. "I thought you asked me on a date today," she whispered into his ear. This jolted the younger of the two awake, causing him to blink his eyes wearily as he stretched and said, "Good morning Tsunade-chan." "Good morning Naruto-kun. Don't stay in bed too long, I thought we had a date today," she reminded the droopy-eyed blonde. The words registering in his head, Naruto hopped up like he was struck with caffeine. "That's right, I need to get dressed so I can take you out," proclaimed an excited Naruto as he moved with the speed she had come to expect from the boy she was running ragged for over half a month. When the two were ready for the day, and Gama-chan was tucked into his pocket, Naruto and Tsunade set out for their date. For the henge Tsunade chose to use, she gave herself bright red hair while letting it flow down rather than tying it like she usually would. She also hid her Byakugo no In as that was the other distinguishing marker she had. Naruto himself thought that she more beautiful with her hair down like she had it. As they reached the streets of Konoha, it was nearing lunchtime, so Naruto decided to take Tsunade to his favorite place to eat. As the two made their way to Ichiraku Ramen, some of the citizens they passed were questioning who the red-headed woman was. Naruto in meantime had the largest smile on his face while his hands were folded behind his head. He was happy that he was having his first date and with someone who showed that they cared about him. Tsunade was a nervous wreck on the inside. She was worried that if she enjoyed her time with Naruto that she would lose another she cares about. When the two reached the small stand, Naruto called out, "Hey Oja-san, I hope you kept the ramen warm because I'm looking forward to the food of Kami." Chuki, the owner of the stand, turned to the person who called out to him. When he saw the young blonde he had fed since he was small, he called back to him. "Hey Naruto, where have you been? I was beginning to think you didn't like our ramen anymore." Naruto scratched the back of his head in embarrassment. He, sorry Chuki Oja-san. I've been training with Su-chan here," he exclaimed while pointing at a henge Tsunade. Looking to the person he was pointing to, Chuki saw a beautiful woman standing next to his best customer. Putting his hand forward for a handshake, "Ah, well it is great to meet you Su-san. Hope this little guy hasn't been too bad for you. I know he can be a bit of a handful," laughed Chuki. Naruto grumbled in response with his arms crossed and looking down. "Not really, in fact he has been a fantastic student," praised Tsunade, getting both males' attention. "He gives his all in everything I teach him. Even when he doesn't understand, he has been willing to ask questions so he can better himself. In fact, He has even taken to learning Fuinjutsu and Iryo Ninjutsu very well for someone who had just began learning the arts, praised Tsunade as she rubbed Naruto's head affectionately. Naruto smiled up at Tsunade's praise while a light dusting of pink appeared on his cheeks. Hearing the name of the young blonde, Tsuki's daughter, Ayame, came from the back to meet her Otuto. "Hey Naruto," she called cheerfully, "it's great to see you. Have you gotten taller?" Naruto grinned at his Oni-chan. Yep, it's all thanks to Su-chan. She got me eating more healthy to help me as a shinobi. Tsunade nodded at his words, proud that he remembered what she taught him. "Yep, what was it I told you?" Naruto grinned as he replied, "that a good shinobi eats a balanced diet to be strong." "Well, it's great to have you back," cheered Ayame. "So is this a free day, as one on a diet would put it?" Naruto cheerfully responded with the biggest smile any of them had ever seen. "Yep. It's a date," cheered Naruto. Tsuki and Ayame looked at the pair in shock. Based on the age difference between the two, there appeared to be at least a 12-year age gap between them. Naruto, are you sure this is a date?" asked Ayame. "Yep," replied an enthusiastic Naruto. "But Naruto, isn't she a little, for you?" "I don't care about that Oni-chan." This earned a smile from Tsunade and a confused look from the father-daughter duo. "She is the most beautiful woman ever. She's strong, kind, and amazing in every way possible. I mean, she is so strong she can make a canyon with a single punch," replied a very excited Naruto. The pair seemed skeptical about this. Ayame wanted to protest some more, but hearing how strong this woman was, decided not to push the issue. If she is as strong as Naruto claimed while being as attached as he is, well, she didn't want to consider the consequences of facing the woman. Tsuki was also skeptical. If she was a kunoichi, and based on Naruto's description she is, then Naruto could be at risk of being taken or killed by an enemy of the village. However, if she has been training him, then she couldn't be that bad. I mean, what kidnapper trains their victim to better fight them off? If she did care for Naruto, then she couldn't be that bad, especially with the way most of the villagers have treated the boy. "Okay Naruto, though I do appreciate it that you thought of bringing your date here," said Tsuki with a smile. "So, what will you and your date be having?" Naruto beamed as he and Tsunade took their seats on the stools. Tsunade would have wanted Naruto in his now usual position when they eat. Sadly, however, the counter and seats would not allow for it. "I'll have one pork ramen with extra cutlets to start." "I'll have a miso ramen with extra Naruto," said Tsunade with a grin. Alright, I'll get those right out," responded Tsuki. The pair spent their time in the ramen stand regaling each other with some of their mission stories. The few stories that Tsunade regaled him with were the ones that the history texts that Shizune herself had gone over with him didn't mention. She talked about how his team was similar to hers, though she never had feelings for Team's Rookie of the Year. She was very careful to not use names to keep her identity a secret, for now. She told him about the time when she and her team were pinned down by some Iowa shinobi. One wanted to leave the injured teammate behind so they could escape, but she argued with him the entire time she was healing her injured teammate. She even went out of her way to threaten to kill him since he was talking like an enemy. Naruto was in awe of Tsunade's resolve, raving about how amazing she was to save her teammate while standing up to the other, which made Tsunade happy and have butterflies flood her stomach from the praise. Naruto told her about how he befriended Konohamaru, which got him a punch to the head for making his perverted jutsu, even if she had to admit that it did work. He also told Tsunade of his mission to Wave. Tsunade held her breath each time when he mentioned when he nearly died on the mission. There was the time that he was nearly killed by the Demon Brothers, the time he was punted by Zabuza, and held in Haku's mirrors. Though she did get angry when he told her that it took an A-rank mission for his team to learn tree walking. She was so mad that she radiated a threatening aura that seemed to scare everyone within 15 meters of her but Naruto. He told her about Inari's rant about how he didn't know about suffering. What really got under his skin was that he spent his time crying rather than pushing forward. Tsunade internally winced at that. She was much the same way before she met Naruto, drowning her sorrows in alcohol and gambling before she met him. He then told her about how he heroically saved Inari and Tsunami from two brutes that tried to kidnap them. Then he told her about the fight on the bridge and how he thought he lost Sasuke. He even told her about how he made his Nindo based on Haku's devotion to his precious person. By the time they finished their stories, Naruto paid the bill and the couple left the restaurant. After their date at Ichiraku, the pair made their way to a spot Tsunade used to visit when she lived in the village. The couple were stopped however when a shout was directed toward them. "Hey boss!" Behind them, Konohamaru had called out to Naruto as he and his friends ran up to the two. "Hey boss, who's that?" asked Konohamaru. "This," said Naruto pointing to Tsunade, he was cut off by Tsunade. "Hello, I am Mito, it's a pleasure to meet you," she said as she looked down to the three children. "So you are this Konohamaru I have heard about from Naruto-kun." The two shinobi looked behind Konohamaru. "Hey Kono, who are your friends?" Coming back to his senses from looking at Tsunade with a shake of his head, he gave a signal for his friends to introduce themselves. "I'm Moegi, the prettiest girl in preschool. Check me out." The other boy went next. "I love math. I'm Udon." Despite being known by the two shinobi, Konohamaru continued, the most brilliant shinobi in the village. Konohamaru. In unison they concluded their introduction. Together the three of us are, the Konohamaru Corp. They shouted as they took up Super Sentai poses. An awkward moment of silence passed before Moegi broke it when she fully took in the hang Tsunade's appearance. "Wow, you're really pretty." This got the girl a smile from Tsunade. "Yeah, she is quite big," giggled Konohamaru as his gaze was a little lower than Moegi. Naruto, taking great offense to Konohamaru leering at Tsunade, proceeded to smack him in the back of his head before Tsunade got the chance to beat the growing pervert out of him. "Hey, what was that for, boss? You were acting like a pervert towards Mito-chan. Don't do that," he shouted defensively. "Why, is she your girlfriend or something?" Tsunade had her eyes closed and a look of annoyance on her face, though there was the slightest hint of pink dusting her cheeks that three academy students weren't going to notice while Naruto scratched the back of his head. "Well, we are on a date," he said with a large smile. The three gaped in shock. Naruto tried to snap them out of it, but the three seemed stunned to the core no matter what he did. With no way of waking the three stunned children, he and Tsunade continued on their date. The pair made their way to a spot Tsunade used to visit when she lived in the village. To Naruto's surprise, they were in a lush garden of flowers that rolled over several hills, making the place seem like something of a dream. "Come on Naru-kun, there is a perfect spot I used to lay and watch the clouds to enjoy the calm," she said as she dragged him along. The two stayed there, laying near ear to ear as they watched the clouds. As the warm sun beat down on the budding couple, the serenity of the moment caused them to fall asleep in the field. It would be a few hours before the couple would awake. As they stretched, Naruto positioned himself to lean against Tsunade's back. Feeling him pressing into her, she placed her hand over his, giving it a light squeeze. They both smiled at the contact. "Hey, Naruto. I want to give you a new technique. This is one that me and my teammates are known for," she said as she stood to her feet, bringing Naruto with her. They turned to face each other. "Are you talking about summoning?" Asked an excited Naruto. Tsunade nodded her head before going through some hand signs and biting her thumb. Once she slammed her hand on the ground, a complicated seal array formed from the point of contact, followed by a puff of smoke. When the smoke cleared, Naruto was greeted to the sight of a horse-sized slug. The slug was a soft magenta with butterscotch orange stripes that ran along its length. Naruto was in awe. He had never seen a summon before, so he was practically on cloud 9. Slowly the slug began to cough something up. It seemed to be the end of a large scroll. When the scroll left its mouth, Tsunade unfurled it in front of Naruto. She placed the large scroll on the ground, allowing Naruto to see some of the signatures of the contract signers like Tsunade and Shizune. Naruto looked back up at Tsunade, a silent question in his eyes. "Yes, Naruto, I would like you to sign the slug contract. I believe that with your current chakra levels and control you should be able to summon 1/20th of Katsuyu," stated a confident Tsunade. Naruto began to tear up slightly. This is the second gift he has received, with the first being his green goggles he used to wear that he received from Tsuki and Ayame. From his lessons with Shizune, he learned how closely guarded summon contracts were, so to receive one was a great honor and seen as a gift from the one who was the current holder. Tsunade brought Naruto into a hug, which he returned, and rested her forehead in his hair as he let loose a small amount of tears. When Naruto calmed down, he proceeded to sign the contract with Tsunade's instructions. Sign your name in the column next to Shizune in blood. When that is done, seal it by placing the bloody fingerprints of the hand you wish to use to cast the jutsu with. Be sure to place them all at once. With the contract signed, the two waited until it dried before it was rolled back up. Now Naruto, I want you to try and summon Katsuyu. Channel your chakra to your hand, and once it makes contact with the surface you slam your hand on, release it all at once, like how you preform the enhanced strike, understand? Naruto gave a nod of affirmation before taking a few steps away from Tsunade. When he was a few paces away, Naruto went through the hand signs Tsunade had shown him, biting his thumb and slamming his hand on the ground with a cry of, Kuchio's no jutsu. A seal array formed, followed by a puff of smoke. When it cleared, Naruto was standing atop a Katsuyu that was 1/20th her full size. Naruto looked down to see his success. He let out a loud cheer while Tsunade looked up with a smile, happy that Naruto succeeded. She touched the gem around her neck. Maybe, just maybe, she thought. Katsuyu looked to the top of her head, seeing the short blonde dancing on her head. You must be the new summoner, she said, causing Naruto to stop his dancing and address Katsuyu. Yeah, I am. It's great to meet you, Katsuyu. I am happy to see Tsunade-sama is opening to others and taking another apprentice. Yeah, she's great, praised Naruto with a blush. Tsunade herself couldn't hear Naruto's response, but if she guessed his answer to Katsuyu's question, it made her blush. Well, I look forward to working with you. Call me when you have need of me, Naruto-san. When you have a free moment, you may also call me so I may go over the abilities I possess with you, or you can ask Tsunade-sama if you wish. Naruto gave it a thought before Tsunade spoke up. Sorry, Katsuyu, but that lesson will have to wait for tomorrow. He needs his rest so that he may give his all in his training for the Chunin exam finals that are set a week and a half away, spoke Tsunade. Katsuyu looked down towards Tsunade. Of course, Tsunade-sama. I apologize if I am taking up your time, apologized Katsuyu. Do not worry about it, Katsuyu. You have nothing to apologize for. We called you and I am happy that Naruto-kun was able to summon you at the same size I can. Katsuyu noticed Tsunade's smile. I am happy to see you smile again, Tsunade-sama, thought Katsuyu. Very well, Tsunade-sama. Please call for me when you have need of me, said Katsuyu as she bowed, letting Naruto off before she went back to Shikatsu Forest. Naruto looked up at Tsunade, a big smile on his face. Tsunade returned the smile with one of her own before pulling him into a hug, which he returned. You did great, Naruto-kun. You pulled off a feat that not many can emulate, she praised. After receiving a bigger smile from Naruto, of course, you're the greatest sensei ever. The two held hands as they returned to the hotel to close out the day, with Tsunade cuddling with Naruto as they slept. It was coming down to the wire. The time left before the final round of Chunin exams was but a few days. To say Tsunade and Shizune were impressed by Naruto's progress would be an understatement. Within the time span of a month, Naruto had managed to make up most of what he missed in his time in the academy and become competent with his medical training to be classified as a nurse's assistant, and create storage seals perfectly. As the sun approaches noon, Shizune was seated at the side of the river watching Naruto spar with Tsunade once again on the river as she held Taunton in her arms. Naruto-kun has come a long way, huh? Shizune asked. Oink, was the response she got from the pig. Naruto threw a hard, flying punch towards Tsunade's face, which she deftly dodged. As Naruto's fist flew past her face, Tsunade delivered a heavy elbow strike to Naruto's face. With his improved chakra control, Naruto was able to perform a seal-less kawarimi with a cluster of river rocks. Despite striking a cluster of rocks, the enhanced strike carried with it a massive amount of explosive force, turning the rocks into a cluster of projectiles. As the stones landed with a crash, Naruto set forth a flurry of chains to ensnare Tsunade. Feeling the chains coming from her blind spot, Tsunade weaved through the attack. As she expanded the distance between the two of them, she grabbed a stone from the river. As she spun around one of the chains, she threw the smooth stone with such force and precision that when it struck Naruto in the forehead it knocked off his hit. Being stunned from the strike, Naruto's chains wavered in their assault, which Tsunade took full advantage of. She rushed forward at breathtaking speeds that even a Jonin like Shizune was hard-pressed to follow. When she came to a stop, her fist was less than a centimeter from Naruto's face as a rush of wind blew past them, throwing up a decent-sized wave and wake in the river. As he saw the fist coming, Naruto closed his eyes in anticipation for the hit that would no doubt send him flying. However, instead of a fist, he felt a light touch on his forehead before he was lightly pushed back. Opening his eyes as he stepped back, Naruto saw Tsunade smirking at him with her right index finger pointed toward him. Placing her hand on her hip, Tsunade began to critique his performance. "You did good, though. Why did you use so many chains?" she asked with a quirked eyebrow. Rubbing the back of his head sheepishly, "Well, I was hoping to overwhelm you before you could retaliate." Letting out a sigh, Tsunade continued, "While good in concept, making so many is impractical. You made so many you became a stationary target. As a medic or being a shinobi in general, staying stationary is not a good position to be in. As I showed you just now, a stationary target is a dead target," she reprimanded. Naruto looked down to the river in shame. Before his negative thoughts could rear their ugly head, Tsunade elaborated further. "If you were setting up a barrier or even tying something like a biju down, then it would not have been as bad a decision. However, if you are going to employ such a tactic, you need someone to distract your target for you. If you had used your cage bunchins as well, then you may have more success," she advised. Taking the suggestion to heart, Naruto kept the strategy in his mind of later use. To continue her critique, she had him take a seat on top of the river. "Now for a confrontation with a foe who is faster than you, keep to your 6 chains. When you use them, keep at least 2 near you to act as deterrents to opponents or even as shields in the event someone gets too close, similar to that Gaara kid. Your chains are both strong and fast, with the bonus of being able to shut down an opponent's chakra. Don't be afraid to take advantage of this to land a devastating blow on an opponent they catch." Naruto gave a nod at each point she made. He was curious about something though. "Nay, Tsunade-chan. How come that rock felt more solid? I mean, it didn't explode into dust when it hit me." Tsunade gave a smile at that. His eagerness to learn has become more manageable since they have been able to calm the storm that is his chakra. "That was elemental manipulation, specifically Doden. I am sure you remember your lecture on nature transformations from Shizune." Naruto gave a nod. "Yeah. There are 5 primary and many Kekkei Genkei versions that combine elements for different transformations, like Hyoten from Haku," replied Naruto. "Very good. Now what I did was a basic elemental transformation where I imbued an object with the chakra of an element, in this case Doden, where the object took on the properties of that element. Like making the rock sturdier." Naruto was in awe at this point. He was really hyped to start this kind of training. "Nay, Tsunade-chan, can I start my elemental manipulation training?" "Can I?" Naruto asked as he was bouncing on the top of the river, causing small waves as he got more excited. Tsunade put a hand on his head to keep him from bouncing. "Not today, Naru-kun," she told him. Naruto looked nearly crestfallen. "The finals are less than 2 days away. I told you that today we're going to be sparring and reviewing the skills you have learned this month, while tomorrow is a day of rest and clearing your mind. However, after the exams we can begin your elemental manipulation training, okay?" While sad that he can't start his elemental training today, he was more than excited to learn that he can start it after the exams. Thinking about the finals and Tsunade's aversion to being seen, Naruto asked a question. "Tsunade-chan, are you, Shizune-sensei and Taunton going to be there?" Tsunade thought about the question. On one hand, she didn't want to stay in Konoha. The scars she has of losing her clan and lover to the wars Konoha was a part of weight on her. On the other hand, her time with Naruto had taken away a lot of this pain. She slept better, did not feel the need to bury herself in her vices, and according to Shizune was smiling more. She knew she couldn't bring Naruto with her if she left. He was also the only biological family she had left. Could she leave that? Shizune herself was curious about the answer to the question. If they stayed, it would mean that they would have a permanent home once again. It could also mean that Tsunade could fully heal the scars that plagued her mind and heart of Konoha. Tsunade came to a conclusion, one marked by a near imperceptible twitch of her lips that Shizune almost missed. That will be something you will have to see, replied Tsunade. Shizune could tell what her answer was from what she saw but chose not to say anything. Naruto though looked a little sad. He was hoping to beat Neji not just to avenge Hinata but to show his Oba-chan that her time training him was time well spent. Naruto, let's get back to it. We still have a lot of time to practice before we call the day to a close, she reminded. Not wanting to end the day on a sour note, Naruto stood once again, ready to bring his A game when he fights Tsunade. Yeah, let's go, he shouted as he leapt to his feet. Naruto was nearly dead on his feet. He had been sparring with Tsunade nearly all day and she wasn't taking it easy on him. Every time he made a move, she made sure to point out the holes in his guard while leveling devastating strikes at him that shook the ground with each blow. He wasn't entirely helpless, however. He took her suggestion about using his chains with his Kaga Bunshins into account, employing that strategy whenever he used more than 6 chains. At one point she did a henge when the area was covered in smoke. Not knowing who to strike allowed Tsunade to dispel the Bunshins all at once by washing the clones away with a sweetened jutsu. When they talked after the jutsu subsided she told him, when you find yourself in a situation where you cannot locate your enemy, don't be afraid to utilize your sensory ability. We trained it well, so use it if you need to. Naruto had complained for a while after that one, berating himself for not using a skill that they found that could literally allow him to see individuals by their chakra, showing him a person's shape based on what their chakra showed him. He could even feel the overall personality of a person when using it as well as where they are molding their chakra. Once he was done smacking his forehead they had gotten back to it. With the last of his strength, Naruto charged Tsunade, channeling the last of his chakra to his feet for a strong push to fly at her. Tsunade was not surprised by this move. She had seen him do it a few times before so she prepared herself. Instead of launching a punch, Naruto threw an upward kick. Though surprised, Tsunade reacted quickly by blocking low before forcing his foot down to the water. She followed up with a quick finger strike to his forehead knocking his Hitai off once again. As tired as he was, he could only brace himself for the incoming strike. Instead of being struck, he felt something being placed around his neck. Opening his eyes, he saw Tsunade bent down in front of him, bringing the two face to face. She gave him a heartfelt smile before placing a hand over his chest. It was then he felt something hard being pressed on his chest. Before he could look down Tsunade spoke to him. Remember this Naruto, I am trusting you with this. I believe in you, she told him. Naruto looked at her with wide eyes but she wasn't done talking. You are a fine man. I'm sure you will be a great Hokage too. With that she grabbed his chin with her index and thumb, pulling his face up a bit. The next thing to happen left him, Taunton, and Shizune gobsmacked. She pulled him into a kiss. The Chunin Exams Stadium was alive with activity. Over the month-long break, respected individuals and civilians alike gathered in Konoha to watch the final tournament. The arena was a barren landscape made up of grass and dirt with a few trees in a single location along the wall that encircled the arena. The watchers placed bets on the participants, hoping to make some money from these exams. Across the stadium, thunderous applause went out to the participants. The people in the stands were hoping for a great show. Overseeing all of this was Hiruzen Sarutobi, the Sandaime Hokage, an older man with lightly tanned skin with a gray goatee with his spiky hair receding part way up his head. He has pronounced wrinkles around his eyes as well as 2 liver spots on the left side of his face. Hiruzen was situated in an isolated area that oversaw the entire stadium. Next to him was a vacant seat, reserved for his special guest. That person was Rasa, the Yondaime Kazekage. When his counterpart from Sunagaku arrived, Hiruzen stood to greet the man. "Ah, Kazekage-sama, it is good of you to come." "It's my pleasure, Hokage-sama," responded the veiled man. While Hiruzen was wearing a red robe with a white haori over it and his diamond hat that had the symbol for fire at the front, Rasa was wearing a blue version of the same robe. Rasa also wore a veil that covered everything below his eyes to mask his face. He was accompanied by 2 guards, both dressed in long, sandy brown ponchos with hoods that obscure their faces and bodies. After they exchanged pleasantries, both men took their respective seats with the guards of both cages taking positions behind their leaders' seats. "You must be tired from your long journey," stated Hiruzen. "Oh no, I'm happy to make the trip. Of course you're still hale and hearty, but the voyage might have been a bit harder on you, Hokage-sama. Perhaps you ought to choose a successor soon," responded the Kazekage. "Ha ha, well, don't bury me yet. I hope to continue for another 5 years at least," replied the age leader. The Kazekage made no mention or motion toward the Hokage's Jonin bodyguard as the man was giving the Suna leader a sidelong glance that seemed to be sending kunai at the man for his disrespectful statement towards the Hokage. Throughout the seating of the arena, most of the genin of Team 7, 8, 9, and 10, that had not advanced, along with some of their Jonin sensei were seated together to watch the coming matches. The most active of these spectators was the one member of Team 7 that didn't advance, Sakura Haruno, teammate of Naruto and Sasuke. Sakura is a fair-skinned girl, who is the same age as Naruto, who has light green eyes and pink hair reminiscent of her name's sake. She was wearing a red kipao dress, which has slits running up both sides of the dress, which has a zipper going up the center to her left hip with white embroidery along the length and the sleeves along with a white liner. On the sleeves and the bottom front and back of the dress are white circles. Underneath she was wearing knee-length, dark green biking shorts. On her right thigh she had her kunai holster while her utility pouch was over the back of the right side of her hip. She was wearing blue shinobi sandals. She was a nervous wreck. One of her teammates and sensei have yet to arrive while her other teammate, Naruto, was going to fight someone who showed they would have no regrets if they killed a comrade. She must have been wearing her worry on her face as her best friend spoke up. "Chill out, forehead. Sasuke-kun will be here on time," said her best friend, Ino Yamanaka. Ino was also a fair-skinned girl that was the same height as Sakura. She has pupilless, sky-blue eyes and platinum blonde hair with a long bang that fell over her right eye while the rest was tied into a light yellow bun holder. She was wearing a burnt orange shirt with a thick black stripe that ran from the collar to the sleeve over the shoulder with forest green shorts along with blue shinobi sandals. "I know Sasuke-kun will be here. I'm worried if he will be here on time. Kakashi-sensei has a habit of arriving late and I'm worried he will make Sasuke-kun late." Hearing this, Ino and the other genin grew a little concerned as well. While they weren't as equally concerned as the 2 girls, none of them wanted to see a comrade be punished for someone else's actions. The Jonin, on the other hand, were not surprised to hear this. Having worked with Kakashi before, they knew of his tardy habits and were hoping he would not make one of his students late, as well not miss his other students' match. Down in the arena, however, were the remaining participants, among them was Naruto. All of the remaining participants were standing in a line with the proctor of this portion of the exam, Genma Shiranui, standing in front of them with everyone facing the cage box. Has shoulder-length brown hair tied out of his eyes by his bandana-style Hitai-8, which was reversed for the knot to be on his forehead. He wore the standard Jonin outfit made up of dark blue turtleneck with matching pants. On the shoulders of his shirt were the red spirals of the Uzumaki clan. He had bandages wrapped around his ankles and lower shin, as well as the green flak jacket of his rank. Genma carried a senbon in his mouth with a utility pouch on the back right of his hip with a shuriken holster on his right leg. Though Naruto should have been facing forward, he was discreetly looking around trying to see if he could spot Sasuke, Kakashi, Tsunade, or Shizune. He would use his sensory ability, however it required him to close his eyes. If he looked like he was sleeping during such an important event, it could get him in trouble with the exam board, then he wouldn't make Chunin and he would let down Su-chan and Shizune. What he didn't know was in the stands were the very individuals he was looking for, though they were under a henge. Tsunade wore the henge she used when she and Naruto went on their date. Shizune had changed to look like a brown-haired woman with narrow eyes, and Taunton was hanged to look like a black pig versus her normal pink self. They were looking down in the arena, their eyes on the young blonde. "He seems to be searching for someone," commented a nearly giggling Shizune while holding a smiling Taunton. Tsunade, with a light dusting of pink on her cheeks, said, "He shouldn't be worried about that. He should be focused on the upcoming match. Oh but, Mito-san, he has a great bit of care for the person he is searching for. Maybe he wants them to see his win with all the training he has gone through," teased a giggling Shizune. By this point, Mito's eyebrow was twitching. Ever since she gave Naruto that kiss, Kato had been going on and on about how much happier she was and how much more lively she had been acting. Not being able to take it, Mito pulled out a container of sake to ignore her friend's taunting. "Mito-san, you are drinking again. Shut up. This is happy drinking, not depressed drinking," she claimed, trying to justify picking up the bottle once again. While not entirely wrong, she was drinking again as a result of the joy she felt with being around Naruto. In fact, the last night before the finals, Tsunade had gotten drunk and became a lot more clingy to the younger blonde to the point she walked with him around their room like she was a little girl holding her teddy bear by the waist. Right now, however, she just wanted to not be teased for attempting to surprise Naruto here with her presence in the stands of the arena. It would be another 5 minutes before the Hokage would make his announcement. "Well then, we ought to begin," stated Hiruzen. Standing from his seat, Hiruzen made his way to the balcony of the cage booth to address the crowd. Clearing his throat, he began his speech. "Ladies, gentlemen, and esteemed guests, welcome and heartfelt thanks to you all for gathering here in Konohagakure for the Chunin selection exams. We will now begin the matches of the final event between the 8 candidates WHO advanced in the preliminaries. Please sit back and enjoy." The crowd erupted into thunderous cheers and applause as the Hokage returned to his seat. Once he took his seat, the cage asked, "8 candidates. You seem to be missing one." Hiruzen chose not to answer the other cage, instead focusing on the arena. With the announcement concluded, Genma turned to address the participants. "All right, there have been some minor changes, so listen up." Genma brought out a piece of paper from his equipment pouch. "I am showing you the matches once more so there is no confusion on who your opponent is." To the surprise of everyone, though few showed it, the brackets had a minor change. "I was down for an extra match. Did that Dosu guy withdraw?" questioned Shikamaru. Worried for his teammate, Naruto decided to ask a question. Raising his hand, he asked the proctor, Hey, Sasuke's not here yet, so what's gonna happen?" As he put the paper away, Genma answered him. "If he doesn't arrive on time by the start of his match, he'll lose by forfeit." The answer shocked Naruto. Now he was really hoping that his teammate got to the arena and quickly. "All right, can Naruto Uzumaki and Neji Hyuga remain for the first match while the rest of you go to the participants' box," ordered Genma. Neji was a fair-skinned boy who was a year older than Naruto. He has long black hair tied into a low ponytail. He was wearing a beige-colored shirt, layered over a dull blue shirt and mesh armor. He was wearing dark brown shorts with blue shinobi sandals. He had bandages wrapped around his right arm, leg, and head. His Hitai was on a black cloth that had 2 straps that framed his face. His most standout feature was Byakugan, which are pupilless white eyes. When the rest of the contestants left, Neji began to taunt Naruto. With an arrogant smirk, Neji asked, "You got something to say?" With determination schooling his features, Naruto responded, "I've said this once before." He raised his fist, like how he did when he swore on Hinata's blood. "I vow to win." Neji scoffed at Naruto's declaration. Ho, good. It's more fun that you didn't surrender. I can't wait to see the despair in your eyes when the truth of fate finally dawns on you." At this, Naruto's anger rose. "If you're so confident in that, then I have a bet for you." This intrigued Neji and Genma. Motioning with his hand, Neji urged him to continue. "If you're so confident, then I bet I can beat you in one punch. If you can take it, then you can hit me. I won't block it or dodge. So, what do you say?" "TCH. Fine, I'll humor you." Proctor, start the match," I wish to show this nobody what fate has decreed. With a sigh, and a wish of luck to the orange-clad blonde, Genma prepared to start the match. Back in the stands, Hiyashi Hyuga, uncle to Neji and father to Hinata and Hanabi, addressed his youngest. Watch closely, Hanabi. The Hyuga blood flows thicker in his veins than anyone else's. Yes, father. Hiyashi has tan skin along with long black hair that falls to his upper back with the white pupilless eyes of the Byakugan. He was wearing traditional, loose-fitting robes with a long-sleeved, brown haori. Hanabi is a young girl with the same skin tone as her father. She too has long brown hair that reaches her mid-back with long parted bangs complemented by a single lock that fall into her face. She was wearing a sleeveless, blue V-neck shirt with mesh armor underneath with blue capri pants and brown sandals. She also has the white pupilless eyes of the Byakugan. During the banter between the two fighters, Neji's remaining teammate and sensei, Might Guy, arrived to the stands. The two managed to hear Neji's taunt and the bet put forward by Naruto. Guy frowned at his student's attitude. Neji, have I failed you to so much that you can't see anyone's hard work? Questioned Guy. Do not worry, Guy-sensei, Lee said, getting his mentor's attention and by extension the other genin and jonin. I think Naruto can open Neji's eyes and show him that things are not set in stone, stated a confident Lee. The others turned to see who was talking. Seeing their remaining friend, Lee, Guy-sensei, stated an excited Sakura. Lee was a fair-skinned boy, the same age as Neji, with shiny black hair cut into a bowl cut. He has rounded eyes with very thick eyebrows. Lee traded out his usual green spandex for a blue kimono top that has a white collar and blue sweats. His arms were bandaged while a brace was behind his leg to allow it to support his weight while holding a single crutch in his right hand. Sadly, due to his injuries from facing Gaara, he was forced to stand as he watched the matches. Might Guy, Lee and Neji's jonin sensei, was a tall, well-toned man with a strong jawline and pronounced cheekbones. His shiny black hair was also styled into a bowl cut while having thicker eyebrows than Lee. Instead of the usual dark blue turtleneck and pants that a jonin or chunin of Konoha would wear, he wore a green jumpsuit complemented by orange stripped leg warmers. He also wore the green Konoha flak jacket. His hitayate was attached to red fabric which he wore as a belt. All attention was brought back to the arena, when they all heard Genma speak, "Let the first match of the Chunin selection exams begin." He shouted as he brought his hand down. "Well," said Neji after a while of nothing happening. "I'm waiting." Naruto merely gave a confident smile in response. "Sorry, I just wanted to let you keep breathing so when I hit you, you remember what stable breathing feels like." Neji scowled at this proclamation. "You could never do such harm to me. Fate has decided it," taunted Neji. "Get on with it so I may show you what your place is." With a shrug, Naruto walked forward. Almost immediately the jonin became anxious. They were nervous at what Naruto had planned due to how subdued his pace was and relaxed he seemed. As Naruto got closer, the jonin got even more on edge, especially Guy and Hiyashi. The rest of the audience held their breath, curious to outcome of this bet would be. As Naruto got closer, he was slowly pushing chakra to his right fist like Tsunade taught him. It was building to a point where it would feel like Neji would be struck by the beautiful blonde herself when she sent that white-haired man to the sky. He was now close enough to strike Neji with his arm fully extended, but Naruto wanted to be closer. He wanted to use a move that Shizune had taught him between lessons. Naruto slowly brought his fist up to strike. The move involved keeping one's muscles loose until they were needed to strike, where the person would tighten them to their max, increasing one's striking power. When he reached his target distance, Naruto brought his right arm up with his fist clenched but loose. Neji still wore his arrogant smirk, believing he could not be harmed by whatever trick the failure before him was going to employ. As Naruto sent his fist forward, the jonin and cage in the arena sensed the danger that his attack posed to the arrogant Hyuga. With speed befitting their station as jonin, Guy, Asuma, Kurenai, Genma, Hiyashi and Ensui Nara sprang into action. Genma carried Neji out of the path of the strike, Asuma, in a shoulder tackle position, was rammed into Naruto with his shoulder buried in the blonde's diaphragm while Kurenai was on his back with her right index and middle fingers pointed outward making contact with Naruto's forehead and her left in a half-rammed seal. Guy wrapped his arms around Naruto's left shoulder and his chest. Ensui, while at a good distance, used his clan's Kajimane no Jutsu to further restrain Naruto's movements. Hiashi had grabbed onto Naruto's right wrist with his left hand and using his masterful chakra control, brought Naruto's chakra through his own chakra network before stretching out his right index and middle fingers out, in a position reminiscent of a forward lunge, and discharging the channeled chakra into the air, inadvertently forming a pressurized projectile that nearly destroyed the wall he was pointing at. Hiashi would not show or admit it, but he was in intense pain as his chakra coils were stretched and strained to funnel the chakra Naruto had channeled into his fist through his own coils to render the attack inert. The action he performed was to take another person's chakra, channel it into their own coils using their own chakra as a means to guide the foreign chakra, then discharge it through a different tenketsu. This is a technique that only the most skilled of the Hyuga could use, as any mistake could permanently scar the Hyuga's chakra network. Or if channeling as much chakra as Naruto put into his attack, could rupture their chakra coils. Most of the audience was left stunned by this outcome as well as Neji himself, save two and a piglet. Naruto on the other hand had the biggest smile ever seen in Konoha. The jonin restraining him were all glaring daggers at the bound blonde. That was rather dangerous, Gaki, chastised Asuma. I would prefer it if you didn't kill my student Naruto-san, stated Guy. Naruto used his eyes to look the jonin he could see, taking in their heated expressions, smiling all the while he was restrained. As if what they were doing was of no concern to him. Just then, a woman with red hair and the largest bust many of the men had ever seen dropped into the arena. Hey Naruto-kun, that was an impressive match. Hearing who it was that called out to him, Naruto further surprised the jonin. The next thing any of them knew, they were no longer holding him. Instead, he was happily jogging over to the mysterious red head. Su-chan, he proclaimed excitedly, jumped into her arms where he was wrapped up in a hug. Nay Su-chan, did you see? I won. Yes I did Naru, that was amazing. Naruto gave a wide smile to the woman. Sakura and the other genin were in shock. Not only did the jonin interfere in the match by holding Naruto back from striking Neji, but the proctor moved Neji out of the direct path of Naruto's strike. Now Naruto was hugging some redhead in the center of the arena. Who is that? Asked a surprised Sakura. I don't know. I've never seen her before, but whoever she is, she certainly is beautiful, replied Ino. Hinata was in shock. Naruto was hugging an older woman affectionately. For all the times she has followed him around, she had never seen him associate with such a person. Hiruzen was also shocked. Not only had Naruto won due to Genma and the other jonins interfering, but he was also hugging a woman he doesn't recall him interacting with or mentioning before. This disturbed him. He needed to find out who she was immediately after the tournament concluded. Nay, let's go Su-chan, I wanna see the other matches, said an excited Naruto as he began to pull Tsunade along, who just went with it as she smiled down at him. Wait, where do you think you are going? Our match isn't over, shouted Neji as he pushed past Genma. Naruto looked back at him confused. Yeah it is. When all those guys had to save you from my attack, he pointed at the group of jonin in the arena, you lost. Especially since the proctor and your sensei are part of the group, replied Naruto. Neji was seething in anger. Fate said he would win. He was to be victorious, and now this, nobody was claiming he lost. Absurd. As Naruto spoke, Genma was reminded of his duties. Due to interference and the softly for a competitor. The winner of the first match of the first round is Naruto Uzumaki, shouted Genma. The audience was left speechless. No one save the more skilled Chunin and Jonin knew what Naruto was about to do, so they weren't surprised by the outcome. The rest of the audience, however, he won, shouted Sakura. With her declaration, the audience clapped. Though they were hoping for a more exciting match. You know, something with action. All they got was the Hyuga clan head doing something resulting in a crater in the arena wall. Only one person in the audience was cheering wildly for the victor, a brown-haired woman with a pet pig, who said Victor acknowledged with a wave and a large smile while his other hand still held Tsunade's. Back in the stands and nowhere to sit while with Tsunade and Shizune, Naruto sat in a place that he typically did when the group at lunch, Tsunade's lap. While there, he received congratulations from the three, getting a standing ovation from Taunton, and head pats from the two women where he smiled happily at the affection. Down below in the arena, Genma was preparing for the next match, Sasuke Uchiha vs Gaara. Your attention please. We will be beginning the second match of the first round. Will Sasuke Uchiha and Gaara of Suna please come down to the arena? Gaara is a fair-skinned boy with green eyes surrounded by thick black rings, which many believe to be a symptom of insomnia. He has spiky, short auburn hair that is parted to the right with a tattoo for the kanji of love on the left side of his forehead. He was wearing a black bodysuit with a low-cut neckline, and short sleeves and full-length legs. He has wrappings around his ankles and lower shins. From his sleeves appear to be mesh sleeves that extend almost to his elbows. He wore a white cloth over his right shoulder to the left side of his hips accompanied by a wide leather band from his left shoulder to his right hip which he uses to carry his sand gordon around. He has his Hitai-8 wrapped around the lower side of the leather band and black shinobi sandals with a piece that goes between his big and index toes, a staple of Suna shinobi. Once the announcement was over, Naruto had to ask, "Nay, Mito-chan, Kato-chan, did you enjoy my match?" asked an excited Naruto. Before Tsunade could answer, Shizune answered first. "We sure did, Naru-chan. In fact, Mito-chan here made quite the sizable amount of money from your win," giggled Shizune. Naruto attempted to turn around and face Tsunade, however he was unable to as she buried herself in his hair to hide her embarrassment. "Mito-chan, you bet on me?" asked a surprised Naruto. Tsunade chose not to answer, instead nodding her head in his hair. Naruto was happy and showed it by hugging Tsunade's arms. "Thanks, Mito-chan. I am happy that you have so much confidence in me." That sentence caused Tsunade to snap her head up. "Of course I have confidence in you. Remember what I told you when I gave you that necklace." Naruto thought back to words Tsunade told him when he got the Shodai's necklace. "Remember this, Naruto. I am trusting you with this. I believe in you. You are a fine man. I'm sure you will be a great Hokage too." With those words, Naruto leaned back into Tsunade, who took a quick swig of sake before resting her chin on Naruto's head to watch the remaining matches. The rookies all were looking for Naruto. They were unsure where he was sitting after he left the arena with that red-headed woman. Neji had also joined the genin. After his loss against Naruto, he was seething. He couldn't understand how he had lost to a nobody like Naruto, so everyone decided to give him space to cool down. Sakura's attention was pulled in two different directions. She was looking around the stadium, from her seat, for Naruto and looking down to the arena for Sasuke's arrival. As the seconds ticked by, her nervousness grew while the audience was going from excited to see the next match to getting annoyed with the delay. It wasn't long before the crowd started voicing this opinion of the delay, rather heatedly. Hiruzen let out a sigh. It would seem he would need to disqualify Sasuke for his tardiness and reprimand Kakashi for allowing him to be late for such an event. "Ho, the crowd is astir," commented the Kazekage. "Yes, the previous match had an interesting outcome," replied the Hokage. Here the Kazekage rebuked the professor's claim. "No, I believe their excitement more for anticipation of the next match. For all of the curious shinobi, daimyo and wealthy individuals, no other match today has more eagerness for it. A majority of the shinobi, daimyo, and wealthy individuals here, including myself, have come here almost solely to observe this match." Hiruzen gave the Kazekage's words some thought. On one hand, he was correct. Many people, including high-ranking individuals, had appeared to watch the last Uchiha fight in this tournament. On the other hand, it would also send a message that one was allowed special treatment if their name was big enough. It could also reflect poorly for all his shinobi. As the saying goes, it only takes one to ruin it for everyone. Needing an answer to tell Genma on how to proceed, the Hokage's guard leaned into Hiruzen's ear to ask. "Hokage-sama, what should we do? Do I tell Genma to disqualify the Uchiha?" Letting out a sigh, Hiruzen caved to the Kazekage's hidden suggestion. Postpone Sasuke's match. Have his match be the final one of the round. Accepting the decision, though with disdain for the favoritism of the Uchiha, the Hokage's guard shunshined into the arena to let Genma know of the Hokage's decision. Everyone, due to one of the contenders of this match having not arrived yet, this match will be postponed and we will proceed with the next scheduled match, proclaimed Genma. In the stands, Tsunade frowned at the decision. It was disgraceful for a shinobi to be late when they are on a time-sensitive mission unless they are held up for valid reasons. This is not an instance where that excuse should fly. The boy had over a month to be ready for this event and he is late. He even had the time of Naruto-kun's match to arrive and he still is not here. Tsunade's temper began to flare. If any other participant was late, what would be the odds that their match would be pushed back to allow them to participate? Naruto felt a pressure buildup in his abdominal region. It was soon followed by the feeling of Tsunade's jaw tightening, which he felt on the top of his head. Nervously, Naruto tried to get Tsunade's attention. Mito-chan, I think you are squeezing a little tight. This snapped Tsunade back to the arena, where she loosened her hold on Naruto. Sorry about that, Naruto-kun. It's okay, Mito-chan. If you don't mind, can I ask what made you do that? Tsunade let out a sigh. I was just upset about the Hokage's decision. Normally a participant wouldn't get their match postponed like the Uchiha did. So to see the special treatment he is getting just for his name upset me. Naruto nodded in agreement. Yeah, I know what you mean, he said with a huff and crossing his arms. It's totally unfair that Sasuke gets his match moved back while everyone else has to be here on time. Honestly, it reminds me of how Kakashi-sensei always shows up late, even when he sets the time. Shizune and Taunton agreed with the two, with Taunton giving an oink at Naruto's statement. As Gaara made his way from the arena to the competitor's box, Shizune spoke. Mito-san, I think Naruto should get back to the competitor's box. We wouldn't want him to get in trouble if they have added such a rule, right? With a nod from both parties, Tsunade led Naruto off of her lap. Getting a hug from Tsunade, a high five from Shizune, and a fist bump from Taunton, Naruto raced off to the competitor's box via the quickest route, across the arena wall while no match was underway. Naruto made it to the competitor's box just in time as Genma called for the next participants. Will Kankuro of Suna and Shino Aburame please come down? Shino is a tall boy who is fair-skinned with dark, bushy hair. He wears rounded sunglasses, like the rest of his clan, a high-collar sea-green jacket that covers the lower half of his face. He wears brown pants that stop halfway down his shins where his shuriken holster can be seen on his right leg while his utility pouch is in center of his hip. He wears blue shinobi sandals while his hitai-8 is secured on his forehead. Meanwhile, Kankuro was fair-skinned boy about the same height as Shino. He wore a bunraku, all-black puppeteer costume that was designed to be baggy rather than skin-tight like the outfit is traditionally. His suit has a circle divided in half by an almost purple like red and yellow. His hitai-8 is secured as part of his cowl that had two protrusions that look like cat ears. He has purple face paint drawn with triangular shapes in mind as well as a wrapped bundle as tall as he is that hold his puppet karasu. Kankuro appeared to be nervous about something. As Shino was about to descend into the arena, something unexpected happened. Proctor, I withdraw. The announcement was met with surprise and boos from the audience. Of the 3 matches that were supposed to have taken place by this point, only one has had both combatants willing to fight. Shino was shocked as well. What were his thoughts at his opponent's announcement? Hey, you mean my match has been moved up? Shouted a panicking Shikamaru. Not seeing anything else to be done, Genma let out a sigh before preparing to call for the next set of combatants, Shikamaru Nara and Temari of Suna. Shikamaru is a lightly tanned boy, having narrow brown eyes with an expression that suggests he is constantly bored. His shoulder-length black hair was tied into a spiked-up ponytail. He was wearing a gray, short-sleeved, midriff jacket with green-edged sleeves and the Nara clan symbol on the back. He was also wearing a green-lined mesh armor short-sleeved shirt, brown pants that falls midway down his shins while he wears a shuriken holster on his right leg and a utility pouch on his back right hip. He has small, silver hoop earrings and blue shinobi sandals. Tamari, a growing beauty from Sunagaker who has teal eyes, like her Otudo Gara, and sandy blonde hair gathered into 4 pigtails. She was wearing an off-shoulder, light purple one-piece dress with long sleeves that are rolled up at her forearms while the skirt falls to just above her knees. She wore a scarlet-red sash around her waist with the ends falling to the bottom of her dress. She also had a fishnet top, with fishnets around her right calf and left thigh and black Tsuna shinobi sandals. Instead of the usual shinobi tools, Tamari carries a large war fan that is as tall as she is. The paper of the fan is tan on the top half with 3 purple moons evenly spaced along the paper while bottom half being black. He wears black, Tsuna-styled shinobi sandals while having a shuriken holster on his right leg. Tamari, with a sneer on her face, grabbed her fan. Unfurling it, she created a large draft of wind. She jumped atop her battle fan and rode the wind currents to the arena floor. "Well, at least you seem willing to fight. Hey, final candidate, get down here," commented Genma. Hey, what's the rush? Hold horses, why am I always getting shafted in the math schedule, huh? Darn it, I should just withdraw too. So lost in his dilemma, Shikamaru missed Naruto coming up behind him. "All right, go get him, Shikamaru," Naruto shouted as he pushed Shikamaru into the arena. Tamari watched Shikamaru land unceremoniously with a wince and a glare. As the dust settled, Shikamaru gave no hint that he planned on moving from his current position, his back on the ground and his feet in the air. Getting tired of just watching him lay on the ground, Tamari rushed forward to bash his head in with her large fan. "Hey, wait, I haven't started the match. I don't care." With a war cry, Tamari brought her fan down on top of the lazy Nara, kicking up a cloud of smoke. When the dust cleared, it showed Shikamaru had moved to somewhere in the arena. As Tamari let loose a whirlwind of wind blades throughout the arena, Shikamaru was forced to brace himself behind the tree he hid behind. "Damn it, she's a stronger long-range fighter. I have to distract her somehow to stop her assault." As the wind from her first strike died down, Shikamaru took a chance and peeked out to see what she was doing. This turned out to be a bad idea, as the moment she caught a glimpse of him she let loose another storm of wind. There was a problem, however. As she knew where to concentrate her blast, the more focused windstorm tore apart Shikamaru's only cover. The remaining wind blades tore into the young Nara, causing scratches and lacerations before a follow-up strike lifted him into the air to face a repeat performance of what Neji's teammate, Tenten, faced when she fought against Tamari. Shikamaru fell to the ground unceremoniously and in a lot of pain. He was not driven into unconsciousness, but he was not inclined to move anytime soon. Tamari gave a cocky smirk as she beat the boy she believed wasn't taking the match seriously. "HMPH, maybe next time you will take your match seriously," she scolded. Genma returned to the center of the arena. "Winner of the 4th match, Tamari of Tsuna," Genma declared. Many of the civilians applauded the match. They were greatly impressed by the display of jutsu thrown around by the young woman from Tsuna. The shinobi, on the other hand, were disappointed. The young Nara barely put up a fight while the girl from Tsuna appeared to be a one-trick pony. While an effective trick in a controlled environment such as this, out in the field it could be fail if matched against someone with an effective counter. Ino looked saddened for her teammate's loss. "Aw man. I can't believe Shikamaru lost." Her other teammate, Choji Akamiki, was eating chips with a solemn look on his face. Choji is a rotund boy with swirl marks on his cheeks. He has spiky, light brown hair. He was wearing a light green shirt with the kanji for food on it. Over this was a green, short-sleeved haori while a long white scarf was tied around his neck, having the excess fall over his stomach. He was wearing the same hooped earrings as Shikamaru, dark brown pants, while having his hands, forearms, and shins wrapped in bandages with blue shinobi sandals. "Yeah, that looked rather. We shouldn't be surprised by that though. I mean, you remember what she did to that Tenten girl?" asked Choji. Ino thought back to Temari's preliminary match and how she seemed to take pleasure in giving Tenten the run around of her abilities before quickly ending the match. The senseis of Team 10 and 8, Asuma Sarutobi and Kurenai Yuhi, had their own thoughts on the match. Asuma is a tall man, with olive skin, brown eyes, and short spiky hair that was connected to his chin-strap beard. He wore the standard Konoha Jonin and Chunin uniform with his sleeves rolled part way up his forearms complementing the wrappings wrapped his biceps. On each of his wrists was a black, loose-fitting wristband. He wore his shuriken holster on his left leg with his utility pouch on the back of his right hip while his hitai-8 was wrapped around his forehead. He also has a unique sash that has the kanji for fire on it. Kurenai was a beautiful, fair-skinned woman with a slender build. She has long, untamed black hair with red eyes that have a ring in them. She wears red lipstick and purple eyeshadow. She wears her hitai-8 around her forehead and black shinobi sandals. Her usual outfit is made up of broad material, resembling bandages with a pattern similar to rose thorns running along it. She has a long, loose-fitting right sleeve while her left was bare. She has a mesh armor shirt underneath while wearing bandages that cover her hands and forearms as well as using them as shorts. I should have pushed him more instead of letting him dictate his own schedule, relented Asuma while taking a long drag on his cigarette. Kurenai turned her attention to her comrade. You wanted him to take responsibility for his own training like a Chunin would. Asuma let out a long sigh. Yes, but it seems the Nara laziness is strong with him. I guess I need to be more proactive in pushing him if I want him to survive the shinobi life beyond this point. If this was out in the field, he would have either succeeded or been brought down because he has no other means of combating an opponent aside from the basics and the Kagame no Jutsu. Kurenai thought back to her own team with that statement. She too gave her team no other means of combating foes aside from what they learned from their clans. While they were good trackers, they all had ways to go as fighters and information gatherers. We all seem to have things to work on with our students. Some of us, however, have to work on our own habits. Her remark was aimed towards Kakashi missing one of his students' matches and having his other be tardy for his match. Back in the contestants' box, Konkuro had some comments of his own. TCH, how weak are you Konoha shinobi? I mean a Konoha shinobi has lost almost every round, he said with a smirk. Naruto turned quickly towards the Suna shinobi. Hey, watch your mouth. You surrendered the first chance you got. So I don't want to hear anything out of you. HMPH, was Konkuro's retort as he crossed his arms. That doesn't mean anything. I would have won if I'd have fought. At this comment, Shino decided to speak up. That is a bold claim. Why? You seem to be overconfident in your puppet's abilities. Your Otuto and An may be strong, but you seem to be the most limited in terms of tricks and combative prowess. Your An seems to capable of using her fan in taijutsu, while you seem to be unable to say the same. Before their argument could get any more heated, Genma's announcement rang out. Genma let out a sigh. It seems that these matches are going to be rather short for such an event. He let 5 more minutes pass to allow people to collect their winnings before calling the next match. Will Sasuke Uchiha and Gaara of Suna please come down? The crowd's excitement for the match of the last Uchiha now rang throughout the stadium. Many a gambler placed large bets on this match, with some changing their bets due to the Uchiha's no-show when he was originally set to fight. As the crowd's anticipation grew, so too did their impatience. Most of the fights they have seen have been very one-sided, so they were hoping that this one would be different. However, that was predicated on Sasuke arriving, which he has still yet to do. The Hokage's guard bent down to whisper into his ear, Hokage-sama, Sasuke Uchiha has yet to arrive. What should we do? Hiruzen let out a sigh. It seems to be unavoidable. We cannot make our guests wait any longer. At this, the Kazekage chose to speak up. 10 more minutes. We should give Sasuke Uchiha another 10 minutes. We have waited this long, surely we can wait a couple more. Hiruzen would like to see Sasuke fight as well, however his response was one a competent leader would give. We cannot allow such behavior to be rewarded. We have already given the boy a concession of pushing his match to the end of the round and he still has not arrived. It is not fair to our audience and the other competitors that such accommodations were made in the first place. To grant any more would show a level of favoritism that no cage should show, no matter their name. No Sasuke Uchiha is to be disqualified. With a nod of his head, the Hokage's guard shunshin down to the arena to let Genma know of the Hokage's decision. Upon receiving his order, Genma made the announcement. Due to failing to arrive, Sasuke Uchiha is disqualified. The announcement was met with boos and jeers from many of the crowd. Sakura and Ino were downcast. They were greatly saddened by Sasuke's disqualification, though Sakura had to admit she was somewhat happy that Sasuke would be safe from Gaara, but now Naruto was in the firing line. "Aw man, I can't believe that Sasuke-kun got disqualified," whined Ino. A storm cloud had formed over Sakura as she held her knees close to her chest. This exam has been a roller coaster. First Naruto meets some red-headed woman and now Sasuke has been disqualified. The Jonin on the other hand let out a collective sigh. "I can't believe Kakashi got one of his students disqualified," stated Asuma. "It appears that Kakashi's past has affected him more than I thought," whispered Guy. Gaara was greatly disappointed. He was looking forward to taking Sasuke's blood and giving to his mother. Anger marred his features as he was not allowed to collect worthy blood. Genma raised his hand to begin the preparations for the second round. "Everyone, the second round of the Chunin selection exams is about to begin. For the first round, will Naruto Uzumaki and Gaara of Suna please come down?" As the fighters made their way down, Naruto over the side and Gaara by stairs, people scrambled to place their bets. One red-headed woman had an easier time placing her bet. She seemed to be able to move fully grown adults with ease to the point where she got to the front of the line in seconds. She slammed her money down on the counter, 50 million ryo on Naruto. The man at the counter was surprised by her bet, but then again, she made a similar bet for the boys' first match and won back almost triple her money. Maybe she would get lucky again. With a nod of his head, he left to print her ticket. While he was gone, some people were talking poorly about the blonde. "Come on, that much on that boy. He probably just got lucky during his fight with the Hyuga." The redhead turned on those speaking with a fire in her eyes. "Luck had nothing to do with it. That boy is strong, that is why all those Jonin were forced to interfere. You'll see it again in this round," she stated confidently. Before the men could retort, she was presented her ticket. As she made her way back to her seat, she gave the men a light shove, resulting in them being rocketed into the wall. People immediately got out of the way of the scary woman as she walked past. She arrived back to her seat as Gaara took his place across from Naruto. In the arena, Naruto was remembering his lessons from Shizune-san and Su-chan. "Remember Naruto, in a fight against an opponent of equal or greater strength, it is important to end the fight quickly. Especially if you have a skill that is a direct counter to theirs. Why? Most times if someone is stronger than their opponent, they will underestimate them and not take them seriously. Use that to your advantage and end it fast before they realize how much of a threat you are. This plays into your medical training." Here Naruto seemed to think. "It's because as a medic, I will need to attend to the squad as quickly as possible when the danger is either being taken care of or has passed." Tsunade gave a nod of approval. "Yes, as a medic your first duty is to your personal safety, to make sure that your squad can be cared for, and in the event a member of your team is injured, it is your job to make sure they are not in danger from their wounds." Naruto nodded in understanding as their taijutsu lessons resumed. From the rings around his eyes and the control over sand, he must be the container for Shukaku, thought Naruto. Here, his lessons with Shizune came to the forefront when she talked about the Biju. "Now Naruto-kun, we will be talking about the Biju, like the Kyuubi." Here one of the Naruto Bunshins raised their hand. "Shizune-san, are you saying there are more than the Kyuubi?" Shizune answered his question with a smile and a nod. There are in fact 9. And their hosts, like you." Here she pointed at each of the Bunshins, "and they are called Jinchuriki." Some of the Bunshins gestured to where their seal was. Each of these creatures are known as Biju, and they all reside in the major villages while one is in a minor village. Now Tsunade holds the Ikibi no Shukaku. Its abilities revolve around the manipulation of sand to such a degree that even individual grains can be manipulated to act as weapons. Its hosts are often known to have dark rings that encircle their eyes. It is speculated that this is either a trait of being its host, as the Biju are known to provide their hosts with attributes of the animals they are, or due to a lack of sleep, as Tsunade has very few who are knowledgeable in Fuinjutsu. This has led to the hosts being unable to sleep as their relaxed will allows the Biju to manifest itself and go on a rampage. Gaara has the signs that Shizune-san had gone over. Does that mean he is like me? Questioned Naruto. His mood seemed to be telegraphed on his face as Gaara had asked, "What troubles you, Uzumaki? Don't let that hold you back. Your blood will be used to make up for what I could not get from Sasuke Uchiha. If he arrives, I will feed his blood to Mother." Genma immediately went on guard from what the boy just said as well as the crazed look that took over in the boy's eyes. Naruto scowled at this. "Oh yeah. Well, bring it on," replied Naruto. "I won't let you hurt my friends. And if you think you can, I'll pound you into the dirt. Even if we are the same, I won't let you hurt those precious to me," thought Naruto. As the banter died down, Genma looked at the two genin to make sure the pre-fight banter has concluded. Seeing that it was he raised his hand, the battle between Naruto Uzumaki and Gaara of Suna will now begin. He shouted as he brought his hand down and jumping back. The match started really slow, with the only thing of note happening was Gaara slowly letting his sand out of his gourd and onto the arena floor. What many didn't notice aside from the Jonin and Cage, was what Naruto was doing. From what they were seeing, some kind of chains were going into the ground, however with no damage to the ground where they entered it was difficult to say if what they were seeing was a genjutsu. "Is that a genjutsu?" questioned Kurenai. Asuma shrugged. "I'm not sure. His file never mentioned any proficiency with the art, however things can change depending on how he was trained." Kurenai seemed to agree with this as it wasn't unheard of shinobi to learn skills they never showed talent in previously like Lee and Guy. Both weren't the greatest in taijutsu when they started the academy, but with the hard work they put into their training, they grew to being some of the strongest in the field. But the question becomes who would have trained him. To both Jonin that was indeed the question. In the cage box, both were surprised. "When did he manifest those chains?" questioned the Sandame. "The boy has those cursed chains. If they make contact with the Ikibi container my plans will be in ruin." Panicked the Cage. Gaara and the rest of the audience were getting impatient. Gaara was often the one who was attacked first and was not used to waiting. Normally his foe would have struck out at him by this point, so why wasn't Uzumaki? Was he scared of him? Was Gaara intimidating to the blonde? No matter the reason, Gaara's, and by extension Shukaku's, patience was waning. "Well, Uzumaki, are you scared? Fight me, make me feel alive," raged an ever-growing psychotic Gaara. "Oi, shut up, I'll beat you, you'll see," shouted the blonde as he pointed at the psychotic redhead. At this Gaara grew a manic grin. "Does that mean you are done stalling?" Here Naruto smiled confidently. "I wasn't stalling." Gaara was lost. If Uzumaki wasn't stalling, what was he doing? Suddenly, 6 gold glowing chains with spear tips as the leading link sprang from the ground around Gaara and rocketed toward him. Gaara's sand attempted to intercept them, however as soon as the sand made contact it fell lifelessly to the ground. To stun to move, the chains wrapped themselves around Gaara causing all of his sand to become inert. Most were left stunned to silence save 2 and a piglet. Once again, Mito and Kato were cheering loudly for the blonde in the arena. The Jonin sensei and the rookies that all went to the academy with Naruto were shocked to silence as were Lee and his teammates. Lee was hurt by the display as feelings of inadequacy plagued his mind as he watched the foe he struggled to defeat wrapped up and subdued too easily. Sensing his student's plight, Guy put a reassuring hand on Lee's shoulder. When Lee turned back to Guy, he met a bright shining smile. "Don't worry Lee, as soon as you're healed we will work 5 times as hard so you can take on Gaara again and beat him. All you have seen here today was just another way someone could achieve the same goal. Don't let this get you down," cheered Guy. While tears brimmed at the corners of Lee's eyes, he nodded in agreement of his sensei's words. Asuma and Kurenai had no words. Here was the worst student of their genin's graduating class defeating 2 individuals that were thought to be the favorite of the tournament. The rookies were no better. "What the hell is that?" questioned Ino. No one had an answer. "Scratch that, when did Naruto get something like that?" She continued on. Again, no answer. None of her peers had an answer and the Jonin seemed to be shocked by the outcome of the fight to comment. Everyone was snapped out of their shock when they heard the redhead from earlier cheering. Woohoo! Good job Naru-chan. See, I told you he could do it. She shouted to a stunned stadium. In the arena, Gaara was going nuts while being bound. He was struggling against his bindings while calling out for his mother. Mother, 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 where are you? Why can't I hear her? Uzumaki, what have you done? Questioned the raving Gaara. His mad ravings immediately got the attention of the Jonin and Hokage. The Jonin were curious what the abilities of the chains were if they caused Gaara to go mad, while Hiruzen immediately went on guard as this boy was exhibiting traits of a person with psychosis. These were not traits any cage would want in a shinobi unless they were powerful, like a Jinchuriki. Genma was also extremely on guard. Where a normal individual would either submit to the bindings if they can't escape or wait patiently for them to be dropped, this boy was thrashing about as if his mind was in jeopardy. Temari and Kankuro were scared. They knew from his ravings that Gaara was cut off from the Ikibi, as they learned that he often referred to the beast as mother when he slew people back in Suna. As Gaara's ravings continued, a swirl of leaves began to appear in the arena. When it died down, it revealed Kakashi and Sasuke. Kakashi is a lean man of average height with spiky silver hair that leans to his left side. He has a single visible black eye while taking a relaxed or lazy posture. His left eye was covered by his Hittite while the bottom of his face was covered by mask that seemed to be part of his attire. He was wearing the standard Konoha Jonin attire in addition to fingerless gloves with metal plates on the back of the hands as well as blue shinobi sandals. He wore his shuriken holster on his right leg while his utility pouch was carried on the back of his right hip. Sasuke is the final genin on Sakura's team. He was a fair-skinned boy with flat, spiky hair, black hair with 2 chin-length bangs. He wore a high-collar black bodysuit that had short sleeves and pant legs. He had an elbow pad on each arm while he had his shins, ankles and left arm wrapped with many small belts over the bandages. He had his Hittite wrapped around his forehead while his shuriken holster attached around his right leg while his utility pouch on the back of the left side of his hip, as well as black shinobi sandals. Sorry, you wouldn't believe. Kakashi was cut off by Gaara's ravings. Kakashi and Sasuke were greatly confused to see a wrapped-up Gaara going mad as he struggled against his bindings while standing across from Naruto. Needlessly to say, the two were surprised. Naruto beat Neji? Questioned Kakashi. Just what did Ebisu teach him? Sasuke on the other hand was more surprised to find Naruto facing off against Gaara. That was his match, so how was he not fighting him? Su, what did we miss? Asked Kakashi. Genma looked to Kakashi with a blank look, doing his best to tune out the now whimpering Gaara. Well, you missed your student here beating Neji by technical knockout. The puppeteer forfeited, the wind user won, and due to your tardiness, Sasuke's match was pushed to the end of the round. Then he was forced to concede because, again, you were tardy, replied Genma. Sasuke and Kakashi were shocked. How fast were the matches if he was so late that they didn't even make the reschedule? Then there were the chains. Did Naruto have the same Kekkei Genkai as Kushina-sama? If he did, how did no one know? Sasuke on the other hand was seething. But he wasn't mad at Naruto. How could he be? Naruto was following the rules put forth by the exams. No, he was mad at Kakashi. His Jonin sensei wanted him to make some kind of big entrance by arriving in a shunshin to impress the audience, but no. He lost his right to fight all because his sensei wanted to show off. As his anger grew, a voice made itself known in his mind. Is this really the measure of your sensei? A man that won't allow you to use the skills he trains you in? Is he truly training you to help you, or just is he holding back? Whispered the curse seal on his shoulder. Before more could be discussed, feathers began to fall around the stadium with many falling asleep. Naruto easily dispelled the genjutsu before it took a hold. Suddenly an explosion went off in the cage box and someone threw multiple kunai at Naruto, though Naruto dodged them all, repositioning himself to stand by Kakashi and Sasuke, allowing the two to see the chains coming from his back that bound Gaara. Standing before them were 3 Oto shinobi as well as Gaara's sensei and his siblings, Temari and Kankuro, all of whom appeared ready for a fight. Genma lined up with Kakashi to stare down the Suna trio and Oto shinobi. Before anyone could question what was going on, the Jonin sensei of the Suna team attempted to make a move for Gaara. Reacting quickly, Kakashi threw several kunai at the Jonin to halt his approach. Naruto, use your chains to bring Gaara over to us. Keep him away from them. Right. Following his sensei's orders, Naruto dragged Gaara to the Konoha group. At this, Kankuro brought out what was wrapped within his bundle, revealing a 6-armed, 3-eyed humanoid puppet with long shaggy black hair and exposed teeth. Kankuro sent his puppet to retrieve his Otudo. This time Sasuke acted. Despite not understanding what was happening, Kakashi made it clear that they needed to keep Gaara away from Tsunade Shinobi in front of them. To counter the puppet's charge, Sasuke unleashed a Gokakyu with the intention of incinerating the doll. The Tsunade trio and Oto Shinobi scattered, as even though the puppet dodged the attack they were still in its path. The enemy shinobi moved to surround the Konoha group, though their journey did not go unimpeded. Sasuke chased down Temari. From what he remembered of the Tsunade Kunoichi, she is a futon user, meaning his cadence should be the perfect counter to her. The only thing he had to overcome is the distance between the two. Kankuro moved to face Naruto, his main goal to get Gaara released, and if he can kill the blonde in the process, all the better. The Jonin and Oto Shinobi were facing the worst of the odds. He was facing Kakashi Hatake, which was bad enough, as well as a Tokubetsu Jonin. The Tsunade Jonin was thankful his face was covered in some way so as to hide the worry his eyes were likely showing. Temari was the first to strike, releasing a gale of wind blades to shred Sasuke and end her fight quickly. Sasuke dodged and continued the confrontation by throwing 2 kunai at Temari. Not deterred by the action, Temari unleashed another gale of wind, using her ability to attack and defend simultaneously. Sasuke anchored himself to the ground with chakra, attempting to weather the storm as many cuts appeared across his body. When the attack ceased, Temari was surprised by what Sasuke did next. Sasuke suddenly vanished from her line of sight only to appear behind her and throw out a strong straight to Temari's face. Shocked by the speed Sasuke demonstrated, she didn't protect herself from the strike. The hit launched her a few feet back while she landed on her side. She was able to keep a hold of her fan as she was knocked down. Sasuke chose not to press his advantage in the situation. Instead, he merely stood in a ready stance reminiscent of Rock Lee. His Sharingan was blazing, taking in every action of his foe to not be caught off guard. Temari slowly got to her feet, using her fan as support. "TCH, you think you're good," spat Temari. Sasuke chose not to answer. Instead he rushed forward once again to strike the Tsunade Kunoichi, but his path was blocked as a flurry of Senbon that nearly landed in his arms. A look to his left showed on the puppet. The damn puppet must have launched them. The split-second moment where his attention shifted away from Temari was when she struck. Sasuke was slammed back by another gale of wind. While it did cut into him like the previous blast, Temari's main intention was to launch the last Uchiha back. As soon as Sasuke's feet left the ground, Temari threw another blast at Naruto, believing that stunning Naruto was all that was needed to disrupt his chains. Kankuro sent his puppet Karasu lunging at Naruto, his goal to break the chains that bind his Otudo. Naruto had no real long-range abilities aside from his chains, however he was already using 6 to bind Gaara. Creating any more would cement him to the ground, making him a stationary target. Remembering this to be a terrible option, he was relegated to throwing weapons until he can find a way to either strike the puppet or get to Kankuro without losing Gaara. Naruto threw 3 shuriken at Kankuro, hoping to distract him from controlling his puppet. Kankuro effortlessly dodged the incoming projectiles. The next thing Naruto knew, the puppet was coming from his left. Soon one of its arms broke where the elbow would be on a normal human, revealing foot-long blade. Moving quickly, Naruto dodged the strike effortlessly by ducking under it. As the puppet was now in striking range, Naruto lashed out with an uppercut to destroy the puppet with a super strong punch. However, due to the puppet being controlled by a person, the puppet flew higher from its position to avoid the strike. Naruto's punch was soon followed by a high kick that managed to catch the puppet in the chest, launching it further into the air. Kankuro was immediately concerned. Damn. With how hard Karasu was launched, many of its internal systems may be damaged. Kankuro called Karasu back to him to launch a new offensive. As Karasu was flying back, Kankuro noticed Sasuke speeding toward his Oni-chan. Acting quickly, Kankuro had Karasu open its mouth and fire a volley of Senbon at Sasuke. The next thing Naruto knew, he was struck by a blast of wind from Temari. The strike disrupted his concentration, releasing Gaara. Gaara fell limply to the floor. Due to Naruto and Sasuke taking incredible hits from Temari, neither were able to stop Kankuro and Temari from retrieving Gaara. The two siblings wrapped one of Gaara's arms around their necks. The next thing they heard was their orders from their sensei as he landed next to them. He was the only survivor in the confrontation against Kakashi and Genma. His brown Jonin vest was covered in scratches as was his face cover. Kankuro, Temari, get Gaara out of here. This shocked the two Suna siblings. Gaara is integral for this invasion to work, so he needs to be kept away from that blonde, said their sensei while pointing at Naruto. Whatever ability he has can shut down Gaara's chakra and access to Shukaku. Get Gaara out of here and get him to release Shukaku, his part of the plan can still be salvaged. Temari and Kankuro nodded with a, yes, Baki-sensei. Before retreating beyond the walls of the stadium. Hey, wait, shouted Naruto. Before he could move, however, Baki appeared in front of Naruto to strike him down. Before Baki could strike, however, Kakashi lashed out with a heavy side kick to the Jonin's chest. The kick launched the Jonin back to a safe distance from Naruto and Sasuke. Now, let's let the genin play. Besides, here Kakashi's laid-back demeanor changed to something murderous. I need to teach you why you never make an attempt on my student's life, said Kakashi coldly. Naruto was surprised that Kakashi referred to him as his student. He was sure that since Kakashi didn't want anything to do with him, why else would he refuse to train him for the Chunin exam finals and pass him off to someone else? Baki now knew he couldn't attack the blonde lest he risk his own life in the process. Even more so now that Genma appeared next to Kakashi. Now Kakashi issued orders to his genin. Naruto, Sasuke, pursue Gaara and the other two. Do whatever it takes to stop them. Gaara is clearly integral to their invasion plans if they put so much effort into retrieving him. Right, responded Naruto while Sasuke nodded in affirmation. Believing his students didn't have the means to track Gaara, Kakashi summoned one of his ninken to help the boys track the fleeing Suna trio. The ninken he summoned was a small, brown pug that had a Konoha Hittite on top of his head accompanied by a blue vest while his right foreleg appeared to be wrapped in bandages. This is Pakun. Pakun, these are two of my genin, Naruto and Sasuke. Pakun did something that surprised Sasuke but not Naruto. Yo, he greeted as he raised a paw. Wow, Kakashi-sensei, you have a summon animal too. That's so cool, cheered Naruto. I'll need to ask Naruto about that later. For now I need to stay focused, thought Kakashi. Focus, Dobi, reprimanded Sasuke. What do you need, Kakashi? Asked Pakun. Pakun, I need you to track 3 Suna youths that just fled from here. Guide Naruto and Sasuke to them and keep out of the fight that will no doubt ensue. Got it, let's go, Pakun stated. Naruto and Sasuke followed Pakun in pursuit of the Suna trio. As the Konoha contingent set out, they did not realize they had a tag along in the form of Shino. Your students don't stand a chance against Gaara, taunted Baki. I don't know about that, replied Kakashi coolly. I agree, cut in Genma. With as strong as Uzumaki is, I think it's you who should be worried about your genin. After all, without our interference, Neji wouldn't be fighting right now, continued Genma. This comment surprised Kakashi. Just what did Naruto do to Neji that would require Genma's interference? Did he use the Kyuubi's chakra? Questioned Kakashi as a small amount of worry crept through his thoughts. He was worried about Naruto coming into contact with the creature that nearly destroyed Konoha. For much of the journey, the group traveled mostly in silence, preparing for the conflicts ahead. It wouldn't be until the group were in the woods surrounding Konoha that the silence was broken. Sasuke had been questioning if Kakashi was a good sensei if he was late to face off against Gaara, while Naruto was focused on Kakashi referring to him as one of his students. If that were true, then why did he pass him off to Ebisu and not train him himself? As these thoughts plagued the two, they were brought back to reality by the brown pug. Hey, focus, you two. We are closing in on the trio. Also, I have noticed that another has been following us since we left the stadium. He appears on and off, as if something is masking his presence. This put the two genin on guard. Someone has been following them since they left the Chunin exams arena. What were their intentions? Were they friend or foe? Many questions like this went through the boys' minds. Naruto then had an idea. Hey, how close are they? Asked Naruto. Pakun gave the air a quick sniff before replying. They are about 500 yards behind us, answered Pakun. Once told this, Naruto quickly stopped on a branch and closed his eyes. Sasuke and Pakun followed suit. Naruto, what are you doing? Shut up, Tem. I'm focusing. Using his chakra sensing abilities, Naruto was able to sense the presence was familiar. When the image became clearer in his mind, the outline showed to be that of Shino. It's Shino, proclaimed Naruto. This caught Sasuke and Pakun by surprise. How can you tell? Asked Pakun. I have the ability to sense chakra. I can see it to such a fine detail that I can see the person thanks to the shape their chakra takes inside them. Even they are under a henge, I'll see the person and the cloud of chakra that surrounds them. I think he has been following us by the bug I sensed inside my jacket collar, explained Naruto. Pakun was impressed with the kid's ability. He knew how useful sensors were, and to have one, even if he can't use it while moving, definitely helps. Sasuke was shocked. This was another skill Naruto had shown he had no knowledge of. Again, the whispers of the curse seal played in his head. See the skills your useless teammate has that you don't. Was Kakashi truly the best sensei for you? Surely there is someone as better out there for you, it whispered. Sasuke visibly winced. This worried Naruto. Hey Sasuke, are you okay? I'm fine. Bit back Sasuke, just drop it. Silence encompassed the group once again. So what do we do? Do we wait for Shino or go on? Asked Naruto. We should keep with the pursuit. That Shino kid will catch up to us, stated Pakun. Though Naruto wanted to wait for his friend, he also knew how important it was to stop Gaara if he is a Jinchuriki like himself. With a reluctant nod from Naruto, the group set out once more, hoping Shino will catch up to them before the fighting picks up. The 2+ Ninken caught up to the Tsunade trio. Sasuke took the initiative, throwing a few kunai in the path of the fleeing Tsunade shinobi. Temari let out a tisk in annoyance while Kankuro frowned that they had been halted in their repositioning. The Tsunade trio turned to face the landing Konoha party, watching intently as the two shinobi got into taijutsu stances. Temari made a decision in that moment to keep her Ototos safe. Kankuro, go get Gaara out of her. Kankuro looked at his Oni-chan in shock. What? But Temari. Karasu is vulnerable to fire, so you are the poorest option against some with known fire jutsu. Besides, it is the job of the elder sibling to protect the younger, said Temari with a resigned smile. What neither sibling knew was that Gaara was beginning to regain his bearings. Sasuke wouldn't admit it out loud, but he jealous of the sibling bond the Tsunade trio was demonstrating. He was haunted by his memories of Itachi being a caring Oni-chan before that night and his shift to being a cold murderer that night. Sensing his weakness, the curse seal began to whisper to him once again. People will flaunt what they have in front of you unless you take it from them. Use your power. Take what she holds precious from her. This time he listened to the whispers. Naruto, Ninken, continue the pursuit. I'll handle her. Naruto looked toward his teammate. Sasuke, you sure? As he asked this, Kankuro left with Gaara. In an angry tone Sasuke shouted, I have this. Don't let them get away. Surprised by Sasuke's outburst, Pakun told Naruto to follow him, making a note to tell Kakashi about the boy's snap at his teammate. As Naruto and Pakun attempted to pursue the fleeing Kankuro and Gaara, Temari readied her fan to blast the two with one of her futon jutsu. However, she was stopped when Sasuke used his new speed to get in close to try and punch Temari. Acting quickly, the Tsunade Kunoichi used her still-closed fan to block the strike, letting out a loud ringing in the forest. Temari was angered that she was unable to stop the remaining two from cursing her Otutos. You made a grave mistake, said Sasuke in a dark tone. Temari raised an eyebrow. Oh, and what was that? You've made me angry. Temari threw Sasuke back. As the two separated, Temari unfurled her fan and let loose a windstorm, Resenpu. A concentrated blast of wind was launched at Sasuke, forcing Sasuke to quickly move out of its path. Sasuke countered with his own jutsu, Kaden, Gokakyu no Jutsu. As the fireball approached, Temari surprised Sasuke by countering with a futon jutsu. With a smirk she released her next technique, Fusajin no Jutsu. This time the gust of wind was accompanied by a large blast of sand, smothering the flame and getting sand all over the surrounding area. Sasuke's anger grew as he was struck by the wind and fell down a level of the trees, landing harshly on a thick branch. Kill her. Show her why you are stronger. Use my power to show why you are stronger. It was here that Sasuke let the curse seal loose. Black flame-like markings spread from the base of his neck as his chakra began to get more malicious. They stopped covering a quarter of his face, but the foreign chakra seemed to burn his body as he used it. Temari was surprised by the appearance of the markings. She was startled when Sasuke looked back up at her with the same glint that Gaara gets when he is about to kill someone. Temari acted quickly, striking out with Kamedachi no Jutsu to keep Sasuke back. Sasuke was struck by the whirlwind of blades, launching him to the tree he was standing on. Thanks to the curse seal's power, he wasn't down for long. He got to his feet quickly and rushed the Suna Kunoichi at a speed she was not expecting. Sasuke struck the girl in the stomach with an uppercut before using a right hook to slam her head into the branch she was standing on to knock her out. It was there the seal began to whisper in his head once again. Kill her. She has hurt you. Use your new power. Show everyone your new strength. Sasuke reached for a kunai to slay the unconscious blonde before the memories of Sakura crying on his back begging to return to normal and Naruto yelling at him to fight and never give up during the preliminaries. Falling to his knees in agony, Sasuke forced the cursed seal back behind the seal Kakashi gave him to restrain its influence. Sasuke was breathing heavily as sweat poured from his brow from the recent fight and resisting the seal's influence. That power, it's intoxicating, thought Sasuke as he rested to catch his breath, not noticing Shino moving past him to catch up with Naruto and the Ninken. It wouldn't be long before Naruto and Pakun caught up with Kankuro and Gaara. Kankuro sneered at the two. So you got past Temari? No matter, I won't let you hurt Gaara, said Kankuro as he placed Gaara against a tree. Oh yeah. Last I checked, it was your Ann that beat me, not you. So what can you do? Taunted Naruto. Kankuro's scowl grew with the taunt. He pulled Karasu off his back once more. Why you little? Kankuro sent Karasu at Naruto once more. This time each of its 6 arms revealed a foot-long blade poised to strike the blonde. Naruto acted quickly, leaping toward the puppet with a bravado. Pakun though would get the boy killed. As Karasu closed in, Naruto released his chains once again, with 2 managing to catch the puppet once in its chest while another caught one of its arms. The single arm and chest immediately fell from Kankuro's control. Kankuro growled in annoyance at the loss of so much of his puppet. Before he could perform his next trick, he was suddenly struck in the cheek by a fist, launching him to another branch. Naruto was surprised by this but was happy to see who struck Kankuro. Shino, called the excited blonde. Shino spoke up in his usual monotone. Naruto, go after Gaara, I will fight him. Especially since I was supposed to be his opponent in the first place. Everyone looked to where Gaara was placed only to see a vacant spot. Kankuro was panicking. Gaara, where did you go? Ah crap, come on, we got to find him, shouted Naruto. Can't you do that yourself? Questioned Pakun. Naruto halted in his tracks, slapping his forehead for the umpteenth time about forgetting about his sensory abilities when he needed them most. Closing his eyes, Naruto concentrated and was able to locate the fleeing Jinchuriki. I got him, he is heading that way, exclaimed Naruto while pointing in the direction that Gaara had gone. Go, said Shino, leave him to me. Naruto looked back to Shino. Are you sure, Shino? Shino nodded. Don't concern yourself with me. Give me 10 minutes and I'll come and help you. Naruto looked at Shino with concern for his friend. All right, Shino, be careful, said Naruto as he and Pakun leapt away. When the duo were gone, Kankuro began to taunt Shino. You are an arrogant fool. Shino raised an eyebrow behind his sunglasses. If that blonde can't wrap Gaara up in those chains again, you will learn what true terror is. Oh, and why is that? I'll let you find out. Wouldn't want to spoil the surprise after all. Seeing the conversation was now over, Shino stretches out hands, releasing a multitude of insects, forming a cloud around him. Kankuro sent Karasu at his new opponent, revealing a smaller blade on a telescope hidden close to the wrist of one of its arms, ready to stab the young Aburame. Shino narrowly dodged the strike. He noticed a strange purple liquid running down this blade. Poison, thought Shino. Suddenly the puppet's head jerked up and opened its mouth as if to shoot something at Shino. However, nothing happened. Damn it, I forgot I used the Senbon in the arena, complained Kankuro. Seeing an opening, another Shino appeared next to Kankuro and lashed out with another punch that grazed Kankuro's cheek. The second Shino made no move to chase down the fleeing Kankuro. The two Shinos regrouped, making Kankuro scowl, seeing that he was now outnumbered. So you made a bunchin of some kind. So, you gonna tell me which one is the real one? Asked Kankuro, hoping that the Konoha shinobi would answer him in arrogance. To quote you, I'll let you find out. Wouldn't want to spoil the surprise after all, retorted Shino. Kankuro scowled at his words being thrown back in his face. Why you? Said an angered Kankuro. He maneuvered his finger in a way that revealed a hidden cannon in one of Karasu's arms. A clear, circular capsule was fired at the two Shinos. Kankuro immediately panicked. Crap, I fired the wrong one. The capsule exploded at the two Shinos' feet, creating an obscuring smokescreen. Poison smoke, thought a worried Shino, with both jumping away from the cloud. When Shino landed, he let out a cough. I must have inhaled some, thought a worried Shino. When he looked to where he last saw the Suna puppeteer, he saw that Kankuro disappeared from sight. Suddenly, Karasu appears behind Shino with another wrist blade revealed. Damn it, that blonde-haired Gaki ruined many of the chest mechanisms when he speared Karasu. Raged Kankuro. As Karasu struck out at Shino, the blade went right through him, revealing the one he struck to be a Mushi Bunshin. Before he could pull his puppet back, the bugs enveloped Karasu, smothering it and locking its joints. Damn him, he had his annoying insects cage Karasu. I can't move him. Suddenly the real Shino appeared. He let loose a line of insects from his person that made a trail to the bound puppet. As more crawled over the puppet, some began to crawl along the chakra threads Kankuro was using to control his puppet. Damn it, those annoying insects will reveal me to him, thought Kankuro as he cut the lines. Before Kankuro could move again, he felt something crawling along his hands. Looking down, he saw his hands covered in bugs. Leaping from the bushes in fright, Kankuro asked, where did these bugs come from? I was sure to the strings before they could find me. That punch I threw that grazed you, I attached a female beetle to you. From there you were always detectable to my hive. I had many of my Kikaichu lying in wait to ambush you when you dropped your guard, explained Shino. Suddenly Shino fell to his knees, then face first to the branch he was standing on. Damn it, the poison I inhaled was a paralytic. With so few of my Kikaichu within me, it will be a while before I can move again. Sorry Naruto, it looks like I won't be able to help you after all, thought a saddened Shino. Not too far away from the fight between Shino and Kankuro, a dizzy Gaara was wandering through the forest, often using one of the many trees to steady himself. His left hand was clutching his aching head, wincing with every step he took. Within his head, the Shukaku was screaming at him, ordering him to slay the blonde that dare silence him. The screaming within his mind did not allow the redhead to focus, moving purely on instinct to find a location to wait for Shukaku's screaming to stop. Suddenly Naruto and Pakun landed in a tree above the struggling redhead. What's wrong with him? Is Shukaku talking to him? Questioned Naruto. Kid, I don't know what's going on with him, but whatever it is, it isn't good, stated Pakun. Despite how close they two were, Shukaku was distracting Gaara from hearing it, but it heard. The shouting within Gaara's head grew exponentially, to the point that Gaara fell to his knees as he screamed in agony. Soon Naruto and Pakun felt it. Even without using his sensory abilities, he could feel the oppressive chakra of the Biju leaking out of the Suna boy. The oppressiveness of the chakra caused both boy and dog to recoil from its release. Slowly, robotically, Gaara turned his head to look at Naruto and by extension Pakun. Craziness and rage burned within the teal eyes of the boy as deep blue, vein-like markings began to spread over his body as Gaara began to drool like a rabid animal. Soon his right arm and corresponding side of his face began to change. The dirt that was around him was ground away and dried out by Shukaku's chakra, where it then flowed up his body, allowing part of Shukaku's form to appear over Gaara. Shukaku's eyes were an air yellow, with the pupil being a black four-pointed star with black circles between the points of the star within black sclera. His new right arm and the right side of his face now looked like Shukaku's. The face was that of a bulkier-looking raccoon, as if it were mixed with an aggressive dog breed. It had a pointed ear on the top of its sandy brown head, while its arm was that of a long claw that had additional fingers coming out past its wrists, all the while the blue vein-like markings stayed through the transformation. It was at this point Pakun had something very important to say to Naruto. "Okay kid, I have helped you locate the Tsunade kid. I'll let Kakashi know what's going on here, so don't die," the dog said before poofing away in a cloud of smoke. Naruto was stunned. What the? Naruto didn't get to finish as Gaara let out a bestial roar as he threw himself at Naruto. Naruto quickly dodged, by jumping far back from his previous position. Gaara barreled through branch Naruto was standing on, using his new arm to attach himself to the tree he just ran into. Naruto and Gaara once again stood facing off. Suddenly, in a burst of speed, Gaara charged forward. Using the reflexes trained into him by Tsunade, Naruto dodges the attack by turning and leaning back to near parallel to the ground. He ferociously brought on of his legs up, kicking Gaara in the stomach and launching him into the air. This did not stop the mad Jinchuriki as he let loose a flurry of sand shuriken as he resumed his descent, though Naruto dodged around all of them. Gaara threw his sand arm out to a tree to pull himself towards it. As soon as he made contact, he made a mad dash for Naruto once again. Naruto met Gaara's charge with his own. Being the more nimble of the two, Naruto dodged Gaara's strike aimed at taking his head off and struck him in the face, launching him backwards. Not wanting to let Gaara have a reprieve, Naruto pursued with a massive push off his branch with his chakra. Naruto now followed Gaara's flight path as he was now over the flying red head. Naruto lashed out with an enhanced strike where Gaara ricocheted off the ground and back towards the soaring blonde, who then proceeded to repeat the process until the two crashed through one of the thickest trees in the forest and landing on the forest floor. As the smoke gathered, a sand claw from Gaara appeared and struck ahead of its position, only for another figure to leap from the smoke. A loud, inhuman roar was let loose and the smoke was cleared. What Naruto saw was a Gaara now having his entire upper body was covered by sand, bringing him closer to looking like the Ikibi. Gaara threw his hands forward, latching them to the ground as if preparing to slingshot himself forward. Gaara flew at an even more impressive speed, forcing Naruto to sprawl to the ground to avoid the strike. The wind pressure that was caused by Gaara's flight nearly tore the blonde from the ground as he sailed overhead. Naruto quickly jumped to his feet, not wanting to be a static target for the mad boy. Gaara let loose a mad laugh and howl. "That's it, Uzumaki. Let me feel alive." Gaara charged forward once again. This time Naruto was prepared and ducked the strike and collided his fist with Gaara's new jaw, cracking his knuckles and the beast's teeth. A shockwave formed from the impact, and the force released forced Gaara to halt all forward movement but was not launched Gaara back. Gaara was relishing the fight. Never had he been provided such a foe. Naruto on the other hand kept pushing forward, following his strike up with an uppercut that staggered the red head. Naruto grabbed the staggered beast by its new ears and kneed it in the face, cracking the sand. This was soon followed by a wide, flying side kick that had the side of his foot meet Gaara's head, which launched the boy of his unsteady feet. He once again collided with a tree that collapsed on top of him but did not remain under it for long. As Gaara charged once again, a large mouth was opening on his back, taking a massive gulp of air. As Naruto attempted to dodge the strike from Gaara's arm, the mouth let loose an air blast that struck the Uzumaki square in the chest, cracking most of his ribs as it launched him through the air. The crazed look in Gaara's eyes only seemed to get worse with that hit. "Come on, Uzumaki, I know that wasn't everything. Give me more. Give me more." As Naruto stood, he removed his shredded shirt and jacket, revealing the bruising and lacerations done by Gaara's attack. Naruto breathed in deeply before putting his hands in a ram seal. Gaara was more than content to let Naruto do what he was doing. He was enjoying himself far too much to end the fight here. Black marks started to spread across the blonde that originated from a point on his body Gaara couldn't see. Suddenly all the damage Gaara's last attack had done seemed to steam and vanish, leaving no trace they were there. Once that was done, the black marks receded. Amazing. I can still feel the seal's presence on my forehead. Did I not use everything I stored? Unknown to Naruto, but the Kyuubi within him was aware of what was going on. Part of it was pleased that its vessel was able to hold its own against its sibling without its help. It was also disappointed as the boy calling upon his power would grant it the means to attempt to free itself. For now, it would aid the boy, if for no other reason than to watch Shukaku lose to a mere human. To aid the boy, it refilled the seal on his forehead before the boy cancelled his jutsu. Thrilled by the continuation of the fight, Gaara cackled maniacally. His sand was spawning a tail that matched his arms. Yes, 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 this is great Uzumaki. You will prove to the world my EXISTANCE. Ha 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 ha. Come on then, show that you are not afraid. Show me. The mad container bellowed. Naruto prepared himself to clash with Gaara once again by getting into the practice stance he was taught for the month leading to the Chunin exams. The two ran forward once again. Figuring Naruto would dodge his initial strike, Gaara readied his tail to be the immediate follow-up so Naruto would be struck once again. Naruto ducked the first strike as usual but surprised Gaara by slightly leaping over the boy's tail. Suddenly, his tail was struck, embedding it into the ground, causing his speed to slow to a halt. Without warning, Naruto had latched onto it with both hands and began slamming him into the ground repeatedly. Naruto was channeling chakra to his muscle to stimulate them as a means of boosting his physical strength, though because he was doing it with little practice, he still had some minor damage appear in the form of muscle tarring. The Kyuubi was using its own chakra to repair the damage as it was enjoying the show far too much to let it come to an end here. Naruto then threw Gaara across the forest where he proceeded to bounce a few times before being violently punched into the ground by Naruto. When he was stopped, Naruto laid into the boy with punch after punch, hoping that any of the strikes would stop the mad Jinchuriki. Eventually Naruto switched to double-fisted hammer strikes, but nothing seemed to more than crack the shell. Gaara's tail soon slapped the blonde off of him, striking with enough force to nearly break bones. The blonde was heavily exhausted. A stamina monster he may be, but those heavy strikes he was dishing out were eating away at that fast. Seeing the blonde breathing heavy, Gaara began to taunt Naruto. Come now Uzumaki. Surely you aren't done just yet. Make me feel alive. Coming up with something, Naruto prepared for the next reckless charge. Being predictable, Gaara charged once again. Naruto was channeling chakra to his right fist and leg. As soon as Gaara was close enough, Naruto struck out with his leg in an upward, straight kick that fully stretched his adductors and glutes. The release of chakra enhancing the strike launched Gaara high into the air, clearing the whole forest. Naruto not only caught up to Gaara but passed him. From what the dazed boy could see, the black markings were back once again. Naruto was channeling as much chakra as he could to his arm and fist. There was so much, the muscles that made up his arm began to expand under his skin. A visible coating of chakra could now be seen by the naked eye as the pressure in the air around the two began to increase with how much Naruto was using. Ha! With his loud battle cry, Naruto struck. The force behind the strike would have ripped his arm apart if he had not released the Byakugo no In. The strike launched Gaara back to the earth with so much force that his landing not only made a crater but also buried him well beneath the bottom of said crater. Naruto fell back to the ground sore, exhausted and praying that the fight was over. Sadly, it wasn't. As his descent reached the ground, a large rumbling was starting to become active. As soon as he touched down, the ground around Gaara's impact site was upturned and out came the Ikibi no Shukaku, accompanied by a deafening roar that halted the fighting of all that heard its cry. Naruto was forced to retreat from the impact site lest he be crushed by the upturned earth. The beast seemed to take in its surroundings before its shoulders seemed to shake. Before Naruto could question what was wrong with the beast, it let out a laugh that could be heard for miles. Ha 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 ha. I'm finally free. Here I come, baby. It once again surveyed its surroundings. The forest surrounding him for the most part seemed untouched. Off in the distance, it could see Konoha under siege by 3 giant snakes, well too is a teal-colored toad with 2 swords crossed across its back just flattened one. Nearby, it spotted the boy that had been pounding its host into the ground. Naruto, having fled from the crater to avoid being crushed by the ground Shukaku overturned with its appearance, was now more tired than he ever felt when training with Tsunade and Shizune. Shukaku now knew its target. I hope you are all ready to die. It shouted while gesturing to Naruto, let's do this. Feeling no other choice in the matter, Naruto channeled as much chakra as he could, once again being aided by the Kyuubi. It was the strongest of the Biju and thus Shukaku needed to learn its place when it came to fighting its host. When Naruto slammed his hand down on the ground to summon Katsuyu, no one was prepared for what happened next. There was a cloud of smoke, a loud boom, and when the smoke cleared the only thing that could be seen was a giant white slug with 3 blue streaks that ran vertically down the middle and side of its body from its head and tapering off at its tail. Shukaku had disappeared. Naruto looked around but couldn't see the giant tanuki. Greetings, Naruto-san. Did you have need of my aid? Asked Katsuyu. Yeah. The Ikibi was released by this boy named Gaara and I figured I was going to need some help, so I was hoping maybe you could help me out, but Here Naruto scratched the top of his head. He kinda seems to have disappeared, said Naruto. Oh, by the way, did you get bigger? I don't think you were this big when I first summoned you. Katsuya nodded her head slightly in understanding. Well, Naruto-san, when you first summoned me, you only used enough chakra to summon 1/20th of my being. This time, however, you seem to have summoned me at my full size. I must say this is a great accomplishment, as even Tsunade-sama has never been able to do that before. At this point Naruto forgot about the Shukaku as he began to cheer and dance around Katsuyu. Wahoo! Yeah, I knew I was awesome, cheered the blonde. As Naruto was dancing around, something that Katsuyu was on top of was making her feel uncomfortable, like a splinter in your finger. Naruto-san, said Katsuyu, getting the young blonde's attention. I believe I know what happened to Shukaku. Huh, really? Where did he go? We got to stop him before he destroys the village. You do not need to worry about that. It appears when you summoned me, you were rather close to Shukaku for ones of our stature. So when I appeared I seemed to have smothered him. Naruto let the words sink before laughing like he heard the world's greatest joke. The Kyuubi also couldn't help but laugh like its host. Naruto was slapping his knees as he said, oh, that's great. One of the 9 Biju was taken down because he got sat on. Katsuyu seemed to not like the phrasing of the comment. Naruto-san, please do not imply such things about a lady. It is very impolite, as I am sure Tsunade-sama would be happy to teach you. That brought all merriment Naruto was having to a halt. If Tsunade was not happy about his Oroku no Jutsu, then he may sign his death warrant if he was making fun of a woman. Quickly Naruto got out, of course Katsuyu-san. I would never do such a thing. As Katsuyu nodded in a pleased manner, Shukaku began to shift beneath her. Katsuyu applied more pressure to that area, and while the stinging pain was there, the pressure seemed to cause it to stop after a while. Naruto began to look around and say, now what? As he was not sure what to do at this point. To be continued. I hope you enjoyed this story. Also remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.